Howdy.
Oh no, hold on. Are we there? Oh, there we
You
are.
are there.
We're here.
Hello.
I love seeing your names just pop up on Zoom. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see you.
Me too. I wish we can do this more often. This is awesome. I really appreciate you guys coming on.
Of course. Episode
yeah.
100.
Episode 100. And it's funny, I've been thinking about this for a few months now. It's like, should I bother doing anything for 100? I was like, yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
And so I was like, there's only one guest, or guests, I should say, that I would want for episode 100. It's definitely you two. It's by far, it made most sense. Otherwise, it would have been a normal episode. I was like, I want you two on for episode 100. And just to kind of recap for everyone listening, it all started. I mean, I had a few episodes under my belt, not much really going for me, and I reached out to you two, and you said yes. And it was like my first really big podcast experience, and you could have easily just said, nah, I don't know who you are or what your podcast is about or anything. And you said yes. We had an awesome conversation. We've been talking ever since, and I just couldn't be more honored for you two to be here. I appreciate it more than you know, and I cannot believe that was 2.5 years ago. What in the world?
That's crazy. It's wild. This is our third time being on now. You and Adam text very often.
Yeah.
You're our friend now. We got invited to your wedding.
I know, yes.
We didn't make it, but we wanted to. It's just, I was telling
understandable.
Adam earlier, I'm like, oh, we're talking about, we're recording a podcast with Ryan later. And I'm like, but it just kind of feels like we're just catching up with a friend. It's not really like a podcast. Yeah. It's more like, we're just having a Zoom date. Yeah,
for sure. And Adam, I know I'd love to text with you more, and I probably will text you more. Starting the new job has just been crazy. It's just been head down. I know you guys are obviously super busy too. But as far as
hide our phones more.
Yeah. Well, it's part of what you do, right? I mean, it's
hard to be off of them, but we don't want to be on them as much as we are.
Yeah. No, I completely get it. It's funny that my current boss is all about being present in meetings. So we have to put our phones down, and we can't be on phones while we're talking to people and stuff, which I appreciate. It's just I have to catch up at night, and at night, a lot of times, I'm going to the gym or I'm watching the game, I'm taking the dogs out and all that stuff. And before you know it, it's 10 o'clock. It's I gotta get to bed, and then I'm behind on text messages. And, it's, I cannot wait to catch up with you two. It's, I mean, it's kind of like a Zoom date, if you will, right? But at the same time, a lot of your fans still want to know what you've been up to, where you've been, the crazy things you've seen. And I can't wait to talk more about that. We've seen on Instagram, but we're going to dive more into some stories, some highlights, see what you two have been up to. Where are you right now currently?
We're in Austin, Texas, at my parents' house.
Good old Austin. Yeah, seems we caught up a couple years ago too in December, and I believe you were in Texas. So you seem to kind of make your way down there for the holidays, right?
Yeah, it's a good time of year for us to kind of just stop the travels. You want to be with family anyway. And it's just a good time for us to take a break from traveling because, November, December, all the trees are dying. It's not as much of the best time to go places. Some places get snow. So it's just naturally a good time to get off the road and just kind of lay low for a bit. And it's, as much as I love the traveling, this is also one of my favorite times of the year. Just getting to just sit still and not worry, have less things to worry about every single day. There's plenty to worry about, but less the logistics of day-to-day life like we have in the van.
Right. And probably less chance for, terrible weather on the road in December and stuff. And there being in Texas, probably not as bad. Wasn't a couple of years ago, Texas, you got slammed and you got taken off the grid or something?
Yeah, it was 7 degrees out, I think. It was so cold. Yesterday here, it was 80. It was very hot. We went on a walk, go on walks every day, and it was so hot. And today it's 50, and it's, jacket weather. Much so you never know. You never know what you're going to get here.
Wow. And so with it being the holidays, what are your traditions around the holidays? Do you go anywhere special? Do you visit any place special? And have you ever traveled to any place that has a meaning to you both around the holidays?
I mean, we always go to Houston to visit my family over there during the holidays, at least one of the two major holidays, Thanksgiving or Christmas.
We try to do both, like
Yeah.
one actual holiday day and then the other one like the day after, so we
Yeah.
can see both families.
I think before van life, I was gonna say we would go to Hawaii, but might not have been always over the
We
holidays.
did a
but
Mexico trip that one
Yeah.
Thanksgiving too.
we've done a few things in the spring, winter time.
Yeah. We don't really have many traditions
Not
though.
really
We used to
tradition, though.
collect ornaments when we traveled.
That's
So
what we do. That's what
yeah, and it was so fun to have it on our tree, but then you don't really have a tree in the van. Plus, we're not in the van right now.
We should still do it though, because we'll probably have a tree one
yeah,
day.
my mom isn't doing the whole like traditional Christmas tree anymore. She's doing like smaller trees with, you know, more like basic ornaments.
do. Mm.
So we wouldn't have a tree here to necessarily put them on, but we still have the collection. I know for sure we did not get rid of that.
Yeah.
So we should still keep adding to it. They don't take up that much space if you get the really small ones.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's what we do every place we go to make sure to get an ornament. And we just decorated the tree last night. And I was telling Kristen, I said, it's going to get to the point where we have so many ornaments. I feel that we should have like a nice big tree with just the normal ornaments, and we should have a travel tree and just
Yeah.
all
That's
the
good.
ornaments.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool. It's so cool because we haven't been together as long as you two, but it's really cool to just pick up the ornaments, be like, oh, I remember this trip and remember where we got this. And, you know, all
Yeah.
the years go by. It's really cool. Sometimes I forget the ornaments we got. So that's a great idea. We get ornaments and we get magnets, and our fridge is getting very full right now.
Yeah.
Good to have a second fridge too.
Yeah.
Right? That's not a bad idea. But yeah, I remember I keep seeing like this thing. I think it's Leavenworth. When you guys were in Washington,
yeah.
right? Yeah, Leavenworth is is it the town around Christmas time?
It's a Bavarian town in Washington. It's
Bavarian themed.
yeah, a theme town. I'm not 100% sure what the the origins are of the town, how authentic it is in terms of its heritage, but the town's themed like a Bavarian village. It's so cute any time of the year, but at Christmas they have a big tree and lights, and we went to that one year and it was so fun. It was
Yeah.
such a cool, that would have been probably one of our traditions if we were still in Washington.
Is
We kinda
it?
Sorry,
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say no. Sorry, cut you off. But I was gonna say, is it worth like going out of your way to go see, or is it like if you're in the area, it's really cute?
Well, for the holidays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you're, is there skiing around there and snowboarding?
kind of close. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you're a skier and snowboarder, yeah, definitely.
it would be a cool trip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
To do like a winter trip out to
Yeah.
Washington. I mean, there's not a ton to do there. Like
might
where
be
you,
tough to get to though. With the
yeah,
passes that
with like
close
snow and stuff. That's one reason why we didn't go until I think our last winter there, because it was, you know, risky with the weather and you have to have chains to drive on the road and stuff. So we didn't even get there until I think our third winter in Washington.
Mhm,
Mm.
But it is beautiful out
Yeah.
there. The drive out there is worth it alone.
mhm.
There's not like a Christmas market, I don't think, if I remember correctly. There are a lot of cool stores and stuff. So it kind of just depends. It's not going to be as exciting as going to Europe
Right.
for Christmas, but it is a very cool winter destination in the US.
So it's funny you just mentioned that because Kristen, my wife, we just chatted before I hopped on here with you, and she wanted to say good luck and everything, and maybe she'll say hi later when if she's still awake. But we were talking. I saw a clip on Instagram of Samantha Brown. You know who she is? She travels all over the world. She had a TV show and everything. She's taking right now a river cruise through Germany that stops at all the Christmas markets. And I know that's something that Kristen wants to do, and her brother and wife are actually doing it tomorrow. They're going to Germany for the Christmas markets. I don't know anything about that, but I was like, that sounds really cool. Do
You
you
should
guys
get them
know
on the
anything?
podcast later so they can share their tips. So when we go, we can use their tips.
That's not a bad idea. That's really not a bad idea. I was like, that'd be great. You know, I grew up with Christmas and the holidays being really big in my family, and so did she. So it's one of those things where it's you get the joy, you get the feels and everything. And if it's a reason to go out and experience a new place and have fun, have a good time, then I'm all for it. So I know Christmas is cool. Like we decorated the house, like all the lights and everything makes you happy, right? Just walking around the neighborhood,
it for sure does.
makes me happy. So I definitely would be up for that.
One tradition I did remember that we do here is they have a thing in Austin called the Trail of Lights. It's been going on like 20 something years.
A long time. I think since like the 80s or something.
Yeah, and it's just like probably millions of lights that
Yeah.
they set up in the big park downtown. And yeah, there's like a trail you can walk through, and they have, you know, hot chocolate and cider and all kinds of stuff like that. Last few years they altered it to where you drive through it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it originally started, didn't it?
Yeah, I believe back in the day it was a drive-through event,
Yeah.
and then it became a walking event, and then with COVID it went back to a driving event.
Okay.
And so we're going to do that here in a couple weeks again, and this will be the
Third in a row,
third
yeah.
year in a row. So that's kind
And
of
you
a
can walk.
tradition. So, and it's walking.
Yeah, no, that's really cool, and it's nice
Yeah.
enough that you can walk, you know, freezing your ass off. It's,
Yeah.
that reminds me. So
It
here,
might be 80 degrees. We
It
don't
might
know.
be, we might be wearing
You might
shorts.
be
that kind of
wearing-
ruins it, though, right?
Not hot
80
chocolate.
degrees is kind of warm, but
Yeah.
it reminds me. So there's something here in Raleigh called the Night of Lights, which is something similar to
Yeah.
that. I have yet to go, and I remember. So I think this is the third year. So the first year they didn't know what they were doing. It was a
Mhm.
drive-through thing, and they oversold the tickets so bad it took people 4 hours to go like a mile and a half in their cars, and everybody was blasting. Everyone was blasting them, and they were getting their money back. They had to return tickets, and it was
Yeah.
such a mess. They cleaned it up quite a bit last year, and they're selling tickets again this year. But one thing that we do is it'll be our third year. This is, I guess, our tradition now is Apex is like a small town outside of here. It's like a suburban area. And we just go to Starbucks, we get our chai lattes or whatever. And there's a map of these different houses that participate in the lights. And so we go to all different houses, all different themes. They have dancing lights to the music you listen to and stuff. So it takes like
That's
2 to 3
awesome.
hours. You're driving around, and it's really cool. I appreciate stuff like that. It's just
That's so cool.
Yeah.
As a kid, we used to drive around the neighborhood and look at people's lights, but I feel like every year less and less people do them, including my family. We're part of the problem as well.
Yeah, me too, right?
And forever. But it was so fun. And there was an area of our neighborhood that they all did like this theme or like the storybook. So each house had like something in it, and it was all tied together. It was really, really cool. And I don't know if they still do it, but it's so fun. And it's nice when you can just kind of stay in the car, drink your drink, and
Right.
just enjoy it without having to, you know, be cold or exert much energy.
Yeah, and I'm walking. So I walk my dogs before we go to bed at like 10:30. It's really dark out. It's like, it's nice when people put the lights up, and here I am coming to my house that has no lights on. I was like, like I'm part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
I guess
I can't
not being
complain
lazy.
'cause, I mean, I guess we could go out and do it for them, but we're not. So
Well, so hey, real quick. Speaking of lights, you finally saw the Northern
Yes.
Lights.
Yeah, sure
we
did.
did. It was
Yes.
so
Tell me more.
magical.
Tell me more about it.
Oh man. So we saw them. We drove up to the Arctic Ocean in Canada along this road called the Dempster Highway, which is this like there's Kona. She's
Hey,
nice as
Kona.
well. My
Hey.
parents are in charge of her right now.
Doing a good job.
She has found her way up to our door and she's scratching at it. So we drove up to the Arctic Ocean via this road. You'll just keep hearing her.
Oh, it's all good.
Soon.
All good.
And it's a really long dirt road. And so you go through the Yukon in Canada, the Yukon Territory, and then you also go through the Northwest Territories. And so we crossed into the Northwest Territories. You change an hour between the two. So I think it was in like Northwest Territories time, it was like 11 something p.m.
Yeah.
We finally got there. It had just gotten dark. And so we finally made dinner at 11 p.m. and we go to sleep for a couple hours and we're like, let's get up and look to see if we can find the Northern Lights, because we had been trying for days and we just couldn't get ourselves to get up to look at it.
Were you setting an alarm or what were you doing?
Yeah, we set an alarm on our phone just to get up, and it was like 2:30 a.m. or so. And so I tried to peek out the van window and I was like, I think I might see something. But you know, when your eyes are adjusting from like the light to the dark, you don't see things clearly. I was like, but I feel like I see something in the sky. I was like, so let's just go out. And as soon as we went out, and Adam's like, I don't want to get up.
I didn't know.
And I was like, we just have to do it. And so we got all bundled up because it was so windy and so cold. I mean, it was maybe not that cold, but with the wind, it felt really
We
cold.
were on like a hill, perched on a hill. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were just boondocking, and we got outside, and you could see the green in the sky, and it was just wild. Like instantly you could see it, and you can just see them dancing around. And our concern was that it was kind of a cloudy night. We had had a lot of cloudier nights, and we had heard you need a clear night, but then I had seen something that you can still see them on a cloudy night as long as it's not like a complete like cloudy sky.
Right.
But even with clouds and even with it not even being like pitch black, like there was still some like lightness in the sky. I mean, it was green, it was pink, it was purple, it was dancing all
Yeah,
around.
I didn't realize it would dance so much. That was just amazing.
And it would come and go, so it kind of disappear, but it'd come back. And we were probably out there for an hour. And one regret I have is like we were definitely a little too focused on getting photos and videos of it versus just standing there and enjoying it. So I wish we could have seen them again. We just were always so tired and too lazy to get up to see them again.
With how much you travel, I'm sure you will see them again. It's like a where were you when moment. You'll never forget that. I remember when I was in Iceland, it was one of the hopes with my dad and I was like, Iceland was awesome. If we could see the Northern Lights, it would be the icing on the cake. And I'll remember, they have that meter. They kind of, I forget what it's called. That is like a 0 to 10 or 1 to 10 or whatever. The of seeing them. Yeah, and it was like a 2 or a 3 one night, and I was just like 0 degrees out. It was freezing, and I was like, Dad, I don't think I feel like doing this. And so I stayed back at the hotel, and he went like a mile walk down the street where some people at the hotel were going just to see it. And he told some guy was like leaving to come home after the lights had been out. I didn't know that. I'm in bed watching some TV with a different language I can't understand at all. And my dad told the guy, knock on his door and get him out here. So I'm in my PJs. The guy knocks on my door, and I just remember him going, "It's happening." And I remember thinking like, what? He's like, the lights, it's happening. I was like, oh shit. So I grab my clothes on, and I have my phone, I have my camera on a tripod, and I'm booking it a mile down the street in Iceland at like 1 a.m. And it's just, and it is funny how, like, if anybody's listening to this about the Northern Lights, just a little bit of light pollution will really screw it up, because there was like a convenience store, a gas station, like a couple road lights. And I was like, where is this? And then I turned the corner with nothing and no lights or nothing. And I was like, whoa, there they are. It was just like, wow, what just an incredible epic experience. I'm so happy you got to see them. I'm thrilled for you guys.
It was just one of the most magical things we've ever seen. And, as much as we would have loved to have seen them more, I don't want them to lose that magic either and become something that we've seen a million times. So I almost like intentionally didn't want to see them again, because I didn't want it to become this like normal thing where it's like, oh, it's just the Northern Lights. Like I want it to be something that every time is just, I don't know how it would lose its magic, but I just want it to be an experience that I have a handful of times in life, in special situations. And it was definitely like the perfect situation. We were on such like a high from like the road trip we were on to the Arctic Ocean, and we were just so jazzed. We were, in the Northwest Territories, a place that we never in our lives thought of going to. And it was just so cool. It was just awesome. And we actually had like this other couple, they were camping on this hill with us. We didn't talk to them because we got there in the dark, but we ended up meeting them days later, and they were out there at the same time we were. And it was just really cool. Like we had this shared experience that we, didn't talk.
Know we were having.
Yeah, we didn't talk to them, but we kept seeing them on the road, and we eventually met them.
That's
and we were
awesome.
Like, we saw the Northern Lights together. So it was just a kind of a cool bonding moment.
That's really cool. Our second night in the Denali area, we saw them a first night, which was decent. It was okay. And then the second night we went out again, and we pulled over literally on the side of the highway in Alaska, because it's super dark and there's a massive like shoulder area where cars pull
probably
off.
Slept at one of those.
Yeah, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's in Healy, and so we pulled over, and the lights are coming out, and there's people on their lawn chairs on the highway clapping, like, oh, everyone's like watching the show. I was like, this is so cool. We're just people in Alaska on lawn chairs clapping at the Northern Lights. It was such a cool experience. But
people kept asking us, like when we were in Alaska, the people like on our videos would ask us, not people actually in Alaska. They would ask, oh, have you seen the Northern Lights? But for the majority of the summer in Alaska, it doesn't get dark. We went on a hike we summited the hike around midnight, right around sunset. And then we hiked down, and it was still not pitch black at like 1:30 a.m. And, I had woken up and that was around the time it was probably it was after the solstice, I think.
Yeah.
So it was starting, you know, get a little bit darker and darker every day.
Mhm.
So you don't have a chance to see them because you need darkness.
Yep.
So we saw them beginning of September, and that's end of August, not October. End of August, early September is around the time that the season for the Northern Lights kind of starts, where it gets dark enough. And I remember you seeing them in Alaska, like end of August or whenever
Yep.
you went. So it
Exactly.
gave me hope. I kept thinking, well, Ryan saw them like end of August, so maybe we'll see them too. And we did.
I remember waking up that morning when you posted it and I saw it. I was like, yes, you did it. Yes. Like I was super happy for you guys. I messaged you guys immediately. What I wanted to know is, how did you know how to shoot them? Like what camera settings and stuff did you use?
I don't know.
You don't know. You just kind of winged it. Cause like I got blurry pictures sometimes. So
yeah, it was very hard. Most our video footage is not the crispest ever because I just really struggled with getting it focused. I've done some night photography. I'm not an expert by any means, but there's like some specific rule you're supposed to follow that I've screenshot over time to like reference. And yeah, I just like turn the f-stop as low as it can go. So we have a lens that does like f2.8. So I used that one. And then, you know, up the ISO, I don't know how to say it. So I'll say
ISO. Yeah.
And yeah, it was so hard though to get them crisp. Like I was trying to like find something to focus on, like a star or something, and it was just so hard. And so yeah, a good chunk of them aren't that crisp, but at the end of the day, you can still see the light, so that's okay.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember reading something before I went to Alaska. It was like, take your camera out in the daytime and focus on the horizon that's like super, super far away. So when you pull out at night, it's already focused that far.
That's a good idea.
It was on and off for me. What I don't understand is, how did people get pictures of them in the Northern Lights with like,
you have to be so still.
Yeah.
So one thing, I guess, if anyone listening wants to do night photography or Northern Lights photography, you have to have a tripod. That's a must, because your shutter speed will, now I feel like this is getting a little technical. Your shutter speed will be so slow that any movement will blur. So I forget what our shutter speed was, but you know, it was maybe like, let's say 10 seconds. So like, that means the camera like sensor, and I'm not an expert, so this may not be right, but the sensor, you know, it's open for 10 seconds and it's bringing in as much light as it possibly can because it's so dark. And so any movement is going to blur. So like you might get some star trails, you know, from the stars moving and, you know, just things moving in the sky. And so, yeah, when people take photos with them in them, like you have to be so still. We've tried it before. It's hard. I mean, I think
it's very hard
with us in them over time. I don't know if they've really turned out that well, but yeah, it's hard.
And then if you're in it, like if you have white in your face, you're going to be so whited out because it's 10 seconds worth of light in your face. So I remember telling Kristen, hit the button, and I was in front of the camera. I was like, hit the button and shine a flashlight on my face for like a fraction of a second and see what that does. And we got like a couple that were like, okay, because it was almost like a flash at my face for just a moment, but the Northern Lights were open the whole time, if that makes sense. But it's tricky. It is super tricky. Plus I'm working with an SLR that's 10 years old. So I don't know.
Some people also, like, not to get deep into like camp photo editing, but they combine images together. I don't know how to do that. I've never done it. Yeah. And so I've seen a lot of photos on the internet that, you know, are awesome mountain scene and then like the Milky Way, but in reality, that's not what it looked like. And so like they're like getting good photos of the mountains, then getting good photos of the Milky Way and combining them together. So, you know, it looks awesome. And that could be what they're doing for those photos too. But it's also a good reminder that not everything you see is complete reality. Because I think sometimes people, you know, see stuff on the internet, and whether it's an edited photo or just anything really, and they think that that is what they can expect when they go somewhere. But then that may not be. You know, sometimes people Photoshop out a lot of people in photos, and you get there and then it's so crowded and you're like, this isn't what I saw on the internet. So yeah, there's a lot of different tricks that people do, which make for great photos, but also sometimes aren't totally real.
Yeah, I give them credit for art, but at the same time, it's like I would not be proud of posting that photo. I would not be proud of printing that photo and hanging it up, because it's like, this is just not authentic. This is not what I saw. And it's just not, I couldn't do it. I would say,
Yeah.
hey guys, look at the art piece I made, blah blah blah. That's about it. This is about as far as I would take it. It's just not real. It's not
Yeah.
what you saw. There's not much pride in that.
It's cool art, but it's definitely not reality.
Right. All right. So let's dive into some of your excursions, and Alaska is obviously going to be a part of this. A good part of this is let's start with like 2022. You know, we're winding up 2022 now. Take me on your adventure. Like, where did you start 2022, and how'd you get up to Alaska? Because we're going to hit on that for a little bit.
Yeah, our big grand journey for 2022, we started, right here in Texas. We left Austin end of January, mid-January, headed west to the mountains in West Texas, did some fun things there. Went to a little bit of New Mexico, saw the Gila Cliff Dwellings.
Gila Cliff Dwellings.
Yeah,
that was super cool.
That was cool. What's that town? Silver
City.
Silver City is a really cool town in New Mexico that we checked out. Went to the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. That was a bucket list spot we wanted to check out. And then we went to California.
If you don't mind me asking, why was that a bucket list? I've never heard of it.
The Superstition Mountains.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, kind of like deserty mountains out in Arizona, but they're just a little different than.
I'd say for us, it was more like a bucket list, like backpacking trip.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it may not be a bucket list for everyone.
Maybe not.
I grew up really close to there, and there's actually in that video we posted a couple photos of like me and my parents, like as I was a kid there. So that for me, it was really cool to go back to a place that I went to as a kid. But the mountains there are just very different. I don't know how to explain it. I was just looking at the footage yesterday, and it's deserty, but they're just very interesting shaped. It's just really, really gorgeous out there. We did an overnight backpacking trip, which was very hard because there's no water out there, and we got low on water. So we had to like really ration it. And that was kind of tough, even in the winter, not even the Arizona summertime.
Yeah.
But it was a gorgeous trip. We camped with this amazing rock formation, I think called the Weaver's Needle, just right outside of our tent. It was so cool. And no one really was camping out there. I think it was just us.
Yeah.
So it was just an awesome experience, kind of escaping the crowds. It's very popular for day hikers though.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at night it's much quieter.
Got it. All right, keep going. I was just curious.
Yeah, then we went over to California. We did Joshua Tree and
San Diego.
which one was first though?
San Diego, then Joshua Tree.
Okay, so we went to San Diego, did a big food tour, toured the city a little bit. We like San Diego a lot, and then we jumped over to Joshua Tree, which we like, and but it's not like one of our top national parks. But we were kind of surprised this time. We had a really good time at Joshua Tree. And then Death Valley National Park really blew us away. There's just so much to do there. It's the biggest one in the lower 48. And there's just so much variety there and so much to see.
It's very otherworldly.
Yeah.
Just very interesting scenery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on my list. I hear really, I wouldn't say it's high on my list, but every time someone goes or I see pictures, it's like, wow. I hear really and see really good things about it. It looks really cool.
It's especially beautiful, I'd say, like sunrise and sunset. That's kind of how we feel about the desert in general. It's one of those parks that we prioritized getting places for sunrise and staying out till sunset, just because the way that like kind of golden light and like the pink light, just like it makes the desert just look so much more beautiful. But yeah, it's a very interesting place. It has below sea level and then also 11,000 something feet, all within view. Wow. Like you're standing at the lowest point in the US for sure, potentially North America. I'd have to fact check that. And you can see 11,000 foot peak in front of you. It's just mind blowing.
Wow.
Yeah. And the same thing with Joshua Tree, that it's like has very good, sunset and sunrise lighting that is just like magical.
It makes it really magical.
Yeah. So then where did we go?
Channel Islands.
Channel Islands, went out to the coast of the Channel Islands National Park, backpacked out there for 3 days, 2 nights. And just a boat ride out to that place was cool because we saw all kinds of wildlife on the way. Did we see a whale?
Yeah, I think we saw a whale.
Some
lots of dolphins.
Lots of dolphins. And then Channel Islands really blew us away too. That might be one of our favorite, national park experiences. Just, I don't know, it was really
just the
cool.
fact that you have to take a boat to get to it makes it really fun.
Yeah, there's like a ranch there to check out. And then just beautiful little coves, and it's just a cool little island and national park. And then we went to, I'm trying to keep it all straight. We did a lot.
We're doing a recap
Yeah, that's what
video.
you do.
So I've written all this down for our recap video, but he hasn't. So he's like, I'm like, I kind of remember, but I'm just letting him go for it and seeing what he says.
Yeah. Went to,
I think after that we went to kind of the
Redwoods.
the like Santa Barbara area.
Oh,
That was
right,
mostly
right.
off camera, and then we went to
Oh, and I
like
surfed.
San Luis. Yeah, you went surfing.
Surfed.
Nice.
Got on the board a couple times, but it was good learning. It was a lot of fun, but it was tough. And then we went to San Luis Obispo. We love San Luis Obispo.
Where's that?
What'd you say?
Where's that? I'm not familiar
It's
with
the
where that is.
Central Coast.
Central coast of California. It's like northwest of Santa Barbara, and it kind of, that county itself like kind of ends where like the drive, like on the drive to Big Sur. It's just a beautiful area. So like Big Sur is stunning and gorgeous, but it's more remote. It's mostly just nature, whereas this area has a lot of the beauty, less of like the big cliffs and stuff, but it has a lot of just really cool like chill towns. Like I think it's my favorite part of the California coast. It's just something about it. We've been twice now, and it just makes me feel happy. Like we had the most epic boondocking spot there, overlooking the valley, all of these things called Moros, which are these kind of like it's been a while since we've talked. Right? Yeah, volcanic plugs. Yeah. They kind of just look like big mountain hill things shooting out of the ground with like
there's
nothing.
There's a string of them.
Yeah.
Like from a few miles off the coast all the way to the coast, because I guess the last one that's on the coast is called Morro Rock, and it looks like Cannon Beach, Haystack Rock at Cannon Beach in Oregon, and
it's just in the water.
It's just like right there on the water.
But it's a super cool area. We've loved it every single time we've gone. And we even joked, like there's a college there, Cal Poly. We were like, if we ever have kids, I'm going to try to convince them to go to Cal Poly so we can go because we probably could never afford to live there, but we love it.
Well, it's like Pepperdine, right on the on the coast of Malibu.
Yeah, and then from there we drove up Big Sur, which we've done before, and it's just incredible every single time. And then we went to Pinnacles National Park, which was a new park for us, and that one's not very well known. It's I think one of the smaller ones, but it had one of the most unique hikes we've been on. We went through caves, like we literally crawled through caves. We went on these like rock steps. There was like these metal bars you kind of had to like use to guide you. You would probably hate it because you don't like heights. But it was a ton of fun, and it's home to the California condor, which is it's like the largest massive bird. It has like a humongous wingspan of like 6 feet or something like that. I feel like we're going really slow on this journey here. We're going fast.
It's fine. It's fine. This is for your listeners, and I know they love to follow you and where you've been. Like, it's really cool to hear the places that you love and feel connected to. Like that one place that you just mentioned. I'm going to go back. I'm either going to message you or listen to that again and do a little bit of research on that, because I love hearing places and getting inspiration from you two.
Yeah, no, we love it there, and I think you'd like it too. It's like a cool mix of there's like kind of hikes up in the hills, mountains, and then there's also the beach, and it's just it's super cool.
Yeah, I want to look more.
So after Pinnacles, I think that's when we went up to Redding, California, which was one of like a place we never really thought of going to, and it was just beautiful. So many cool things to do around there. It's in Northern California, so it's more inland. We worked with their tourism board there, and minus shattering our van window, which we can share later if you'd like more about.
We just did that in Idaho, so I get it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Did you tell us this? I feel like that kind of sounds.
I don't read on. What's that?
The windshield cracked, right?
The windshield cracked. Yeah. A rock hit it like a bullet, and we were going 80 because the highways are super quick out there. And it was right towards Kristen's face, right in the passenger seat. It was like bam, and then glass shattered like inside.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was on the inside. So it's one of those things where we're waiting to hear back, we're waiting to get the quote and all that stuff, but our credit card should take care of that. The travel,
insurance,
Chase Sapphire, the insurance they should cover.
I didn't realize it was that bad. Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's
scary scene. But Yeah, no, keep going. What happened with you?
I mean, even hearing a little rock hit your windshield, like always
Yeah.
scares you. Like that
Yeah.
noise just startles you
Yeah.
Oh,
when
yeah.
you're going that fast.
And it just happened to my car. Like I have a new car because that drunk driver hit it in April. It's just last week. I was driving to the Mazda dealership just to get the tires rotated, and bam, right in my windshield, cracked it. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. That's 2 in a month.
We have 3 on our windshield right now.
Mhm.
And we decided we're just gonna wait it out
Yeah.
until it's really bad.
They're
Because
kind of in nice spots where you don't really notice.
they're like
them.
little spider web shaped ones. Really,
Yeah.
they're not huge, you know, they're not
Battle
like
scars.
big cracks.
Yeah.
We've had multiple windshield replacements on the van, and we don't want State Farm to stop giving us those for free. We have good insurance that covers it, but we don't
Or
want
raise
to.
our rates.
Yeah, we don't want to push our luck, so we're just gonna wait this one out.
I get it.
We just add character. So where were we? Reading. Yes, we went to Reading, had a ton of fun there. Went to Lassen Volcanic National Park, which we visited in the off season, so we couldn't do everything there. So we're definitely going to go back there because from what we saw, it's such an underrated park. And in the summer, it would be even more incredible because you could summit a bunch of peaks and you can get to more of the like geothermal activity. It's kind of like a mini Yellowstone there, but no one really talks about it. And it's just such a cool park, and we only got to see a little bit of it. Like we had to do like 2 things because most of it was closed for the winter.
And being on the East Coast, I've never heard of these places. So I'm actually glad you are saying this. For anybody who's listening, probably near me or on the East Coast, I've never heard of these places. So it's really good to put this on the list.
Like Yosemite gets all the love in California. It gets a lot of the love in terms of like more mountainous parks, and it's gorgeous there. We went before we had a YouTube channel earlier on in like our more traveling careers, and it's incredible. Yosemite is incredible, but like there are other amazing parks in California too. And yeah, like Channel Islands was awesome, Lassen was awesome, Pinnacles was really cool. It's very different. Pinnacles is like a 1-day park, like maybe 2 days. You can see it in 1 day, but there's so much around there that you can do other stuff too, in like a bigger trip. And then we went to Redwoods after that. So we went to Redwoods National Park, which we had also been to before, but we explored it more in depth this time. And yeah, I mean, you're just walking among.
That one's epic.
Yeah, you're just walking among giant trees.
Is that different than Muir Woods?
Yes.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one I think that's just north of San Francisco, which also has really cool trees. We haven't been to that one, but yeah, Redwoods National. It's not Redwoods National and State Parks. So it's an interesting way it's set up. It's 3 or 4 state parks and then a national park unit, but they're all part of the same like national park system. It's kind of weird. Like I forget all the rules, but like your national park pass, I believe does work for all the parks, even though some of them are like a state park. That could be wrong. It's been quite a few months, but I believe I remember saying that. But yeah, it's a really interesting setup. But what's cool about it is it's not just the trees. There's also a lot of coastline there too. So you get kind of, instead of just, once you've seen a bunch of redwoods, you've kind of seen it. I mean, that's just kind of the reality. It's like, walking through redwoods is super impressive, but it starts to kind of look a little bit of the same. But there is a canyon that's just full of ferns there called Fern Canyon. That's just magical. You get to like walk through water in this canyon if you go a certain time of year. And then there's the coastline. So it does offer like a cool mix of scenery.
That's great. What have you been to Sequoia?
No. Not yet. We really want to go.
Okay, I was going to ask you which one's got the bigger trees, and they're both big to me. I don't know which ones are bigger.
We were just talking to his cousins about this the other night.
Oh yeah.
If I remember correct, I'm saying a lot of things that I'm like, I think this is right. I know the trees we saw at Redwoods. I'm fairly confident those are the tallest trees, but there's something about sequoias that might be bigger, like they might be wider or something. They're also very big. They're both impressive.
But
trees.
I think at Sequoia is a tree called General Sherman, and I think it's the tallest one, isn't it?
I'm not sure, but they kept mentioning, your cousins kept mentioning.
It's either the tallest one or the oldest one or something like that at Sequoia.
I'm like, should I be fact checking this right now? Look, General Sherman.
Yeah, do it. Fact check it.
We're gonna get this right. If I can actually type. Oh no.
No, tree.
Okay, not the man.
Not the man.
I'm surprised you guys haven't been there.
The world's largest tree measured by volume.
Okay.
So it's only 275 feet tall.
Well, only.
Only, right?
Okay, hold on. But there's a redwood tree called Hyperion, which I know we did talk about in our video.
Yeah.
That's about 379 feet tall.
100 feet taller than that one.
Yeah,
wow.
but I think by volume, all right, hold on. Let's just here we go. If you put difference between sequoia and redwood comes up immediately. Immense. So I think the sequoia might be like a thicker trunk.
Okay.
Whereas the redwood's a little bit thinner, but it's taller.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the redwoods live near the coast while the sequoias are in subalpine terrain.
Okay.
So
there's your
that was me reading the preview text on Google. So
your tree knowledge for the night, everyone.
Hey, for everyone listening to this is driving their car, they couldn't look this up themselves.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah. So we'd love to go to Sequoia and Kings Canyon, which are all right by Yosemite. They're all kind of next to each other. That was originally going to be the part of the plan for next year, but now it's not because we did a lot of things out west this past year. We're giving the West a break, even though we could never leave the West and we'd be happy. But we definitely want to spend, like, our hope is to spend a summer at some point just out there in kind of the Sierra Mountains, like the Eastern Sierras, and just do a lot of backpacking, visit the parks. And yeah, there's just so much to do in that part of California. It just looks totally up our alley. But we couldn't go this past time because a lot of people kept asking, are you going to Yosemite on your way up to Alaska? But that would have been around the March timeframe that we were there. And that's just for what we want to do, which is a lot of, hiking and backcountry camping. It's too snowy there that time of year. So there's always that battle between, visiting a place in the off season, which is a really cool experience. We really enjoyed seeing Lassen with some snow and kind of in a different experience than many people see it. But you also are so much more limited. So it's like, less people and a unique experience, but at the same time, you don't get to see as much of what makes the park special. So sometimes it's worth kind of sucking up the crowds.
Yeah. Right. I get it. We'll keep going. What else we got?
All right.
Well, from there, Oregon, right?
Yes.
We had a rainy time on the southern Oregon coast.
So rainy.
Yeah, I got to see some of the hot items down there, the Samuel H. Boardman area with the big it has that arch deal there. Like the sea arches out there, and just the southern Oregon coast is amazing. And then Bend. Yeah, and then we have Bend, Oregon, which we got to work with their tourism board there, and we had a great time. We got to do a bunch of stuff, eat a bunch of good food, a bunch of hiking.
Yeah, we also went there kind of a weird season. So
shoulder season.
We had been to Bend one other time before, and it was around Labor Day. It was actually where we decided we were going to do van life on a hike in Bend. We just made the decision we're going to buy a van and we're going to travel full time. So it's a special place for us. But so we've experienced Bend kind of in its prime for hiking, which we'd love to go back there and do more like backpacking and just more hiking. There are so many cool hikes out there. And it's also a really popular place in the winter with a lot of skiing, some great skiing and snowboarding out there. But we were there kind of in like that weird springtime. So we did some snowshoeing. We snowshoed out to a warming hut. So that
was cool.
Yeah, that was such a cool experience. We snowshoed out, and there's this hut, and it had just been rebuilt kind of recently. So it was really nice. It had like a sliding door. You go in and there's a fire, or what would you call it? Was it a fireplace?
Like a stove.
Yeah, like a stove.
A
wood-fired stove.
Wood-fired stove, yeah.
So we got to like get the stove going, and we warmed up in there. We ate, a meal. I made backpacking meals in there. We're just sitting there enjoying the fire, and then we let the fire go out, and then we left and snowshoed out, and we got snowed on like the whole way back. Yeah, it was just magical. Yeah. So we got to experience some of like the winter stuff there on that trip, but not like the snowboarding or skiing.
Oregon is very high on my to-do list. What is like the highlight of, if I said, hey, I'm going to Oregon for 2 days or whatever, what would you say is like, you have to do this while you're in Oregon?
I mean, I'd probably say
it depends. Like, do you want more mountains and hiking and things like that, or do you want more like beach and the coastal vibe, right?
Or you could do both.
Or you can do both.
Yeah, give me both. Give me the highlight for both.
I mean, I'd say like a really good like first trip to Oregon would be flying to Portland. Portland has an amazing food scene. We love the food there. And then you could do like a day trip out to Cannon Beach, like that part of the Oregon coast, because it's I think an hour and a half. I think that's around how far it is from Portland. And that area of the coast is beautiful. You can't really go wrong with any part of the coast. And then you could do a day trip out to the Columbia River Gorge, which, you know, the first part of it, like the earliest waterfalls are probably like under an hour, around an hour from Portland. It's really close. And then just do a day trip out there, just like checking out all the waterfalls. A lot of them you can view from the road. There's some you can hike to. There's also other hikes you can do. There's like some cool little towns, like a Hood River, I believe is the name of one of the towns. You can, you know, go have lunch in, then turn around and head back to Portland. So you can do that in like three days, giving yourself some like travel time.
Yeah, if you like to jam pack your vacations like we know you do and like we do, there's tons to do. You'll never be bored.
And if you had even more time, you could drive out to Mount Hood, which is not very far from the Columbia River Gorge. And you can do stuff out there too. There's so much to do out there. So many waterfalls. That's probably one of the highlights of Oregon, is just how many waterfalls. And speaking of waterfalls, ties in great to our next stop, which was a state park in Oregon known for this hike called the Trail of 10 Falls, which has 10 waterfalls. Silver Falls State Park, and you can walk behind most of them. So you get to like walk behind all these waterfalls and stuff, and it's a really neat state park. And it's a good way like to see without going to the Columbia River Gorge, see a bunch of waterfalls all in one day.
You guys are giving up all the hidden gems. This is
that one, I mean, it's not too hidden.
No, like I said, it's hidden to me. On the East Coast, I've never heard of any of this stuff.
State parks don't tend to get as much love as the national parks, and state parks are awesome. Yeah. You can often find just as good of scenery at state parks, and state parks tend to be dog friendly. This hike is not, the waterfall hike is not, so that one's an exception. But a lot of times state parks are dog friendly, whereas national parks aren't dog friendly. And there's usually less people. I mean, it's probably gonna be more locals versus like the tourists, because the tourists would focus on the Columbia River Gorge, whereas locals may go to Silver Falls State Park, and they're not too far from each other.
So here's a question for you. You may not know the answer. We may have to go back to Google. Okay, what makes a national park a national park? What makes a state park a state park? And can a state park, or has a state park ever become a national park?
So I think to answer the first question, the difference is like jurisdiction, the right word, like who manages it. So national parks are managed on like a federal level, like government managed, whereas state parks are managed by the state. So I'd want to say they probably don't turn into national parks. Like a lot of like national monuments and stuff get like upgraded.
That's why I asked. Yeah. That's why I asked. Yep.
But I want to say state parks probably stay state parks.
Yeah, I don't know of any being bumped to a national park status. There might be an instance, but I don't know.
So there's a good chance they're never going to get that, like the crowd levels of a national park.
I mean, national parks, I think, get designated and set aside, by the national government, who I think a lot of times it's the president that does that designation. But I don't know. I know there are a few instances where we were just near one in Oklahoma where there was a national park that got downgraded to a national recreation area.
Yeah, got demoted.
Yeah, it got demoted. I think there's 6 or 7 instances of that actually.
But really any like site that's managed by the National Park Service, which are, the national monuments, national recreation areas, and probably some other phrases, like a lot of them say national in them. They're all, protected land that's, open to the public to enjoy. I mean, there's usually a fee to enter them. So they're really not that different from each other. It's just, I think the national parks tend to stand out more because they're probably like the best of the best. But we've been to some non-national park, but still national park managed sites that are still like so impressive.
That's what I hear. And I asked you that because when I went to White Sands, it was a national monument. And then like 2 or 3 months after it became a national park, I was like, what the hell? Same for you? Yeah.
So we're counting it as going, even though it was not a national park.
Oh, hell yeah.
It hasn't changed. The sand is still there.
It still looks the same. And I believe Craters of the Moon in Idaho is also a national monument, right? It's not park. Maybe one of these days.
Cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, we're going slow, but we'll eventually get there.
Also, Custer, it's a state park.
Yeah.
in South Dakota, Custer State Park, that could easily be a national park in my eyes.
So it's funny you say that. I thought of you when I just had my conversation with Janelle. It was a couple episodes ago. Janelle, the slow mad. I asked her, she's traveling around the country in an RV. And I said, what are some of your highlights? And her first one was Glacier. And then she said, Custer State Park in South Dakota is one of the coolest places that she's ever been. And I thought of you because I remember you saying the same thing a couple of years ago. So she echoed that.
I probably said both of those.
Yeah.
Because we went to those the same year.
Yeah.
Yep. But keep on rocking here.
Then we had he planned like a surprise adventure for us.
Yeah.
So the rule was Washington, because we were in Washington, and basically it's hard for us to go do things in Washington when we're there because it's kind of our home. Like we consider Washington still our home and we have friends there. So whenever we go to Washington, one, we've done a lot of the really popular stuff there. We filmed a handful of videos there. So when we go to Washington, we really just want to enjoy it for ourselves and just kind of just do not much of anything, just enjoy being there. And usually when we go, we're like, I don't know, I feel like we're always like short on time, or we're seeing friends, so we don't have a ton of time to do other things. Or for example, this time when we were there, we were working on a lot of like prep work for Alaska with the van on our friend's driveway. Thank you, Allison and Jared. They let us like camp out on their driveway a bunch and, do a lot of projects and everything. So our time in Washington was mostly spent on that. So we basically decided that Adam would plan a surprise adventure for us somewhere in Washington, but then he decided plot twist it.
Yeah, so I wanted to do something in Washington, but it was still that weird kind of time of year where it's still, a lot of places are still snowy and it'll be melting and it'll be muddy and just not the best time to be doing a lot of the hikes and things like that. But I also wanted to do something that we haven't done, and we've done tons of stuff in Washington. And so I just went rogue, and I thought we were still down by the border, and I was like, well, what if we go to Astoria, Oregon, which is right there where Oregon meets Washington, and
where
then
the shipwrecks and stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a big shipwreck, the Pete Iredale shipwreck out there, and it's called the Graveyard of the Pacific because the waters that meet into the Columbia River is just really not good for ships, very dangerous. But anyway, so we did a lot of exploring around Astoria. They have like this river walk kind of a deal. We went to a waterfall. They have what's that tower called? It's like an observation tower in town that looks over the gorge and everything. And then there's also kind of a state park kind of mirroring it on the Washington side that's called
Cape Disappointment.
We
Which
had
is
always
not a disappointment.
Definitely not a disappointment. We always wanted to go there, and that's where the Dead Man's Cove is, right? Yeah, there's this little hike that you go down, and it's this small little cove with a little rock in the middle and a tree poking up. It's like one of those like screensaver shots that you see on computers sometimes or on your TV. So no,
it was an amazing adventure.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I didn't expect we'd go to Oregon, so it was like a plot twist when we like crossed into Oregon. But then we did go to Washington too. So that was kind of our final like fun adventure in the lower 48. And then and then we headed up to Canada. So we crossed into Canada, our first time crossing in the van, first time crossing, since COVID. So there's just more things to know. Crossed without any issues, super, super smooth. Crossing back into the US later on was not as smooth. We can share that story later because that's actually not in a video. So that's like an unheard story.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we can share that whenever. But we'll try to pick up our pace this podcast. So we went to Vancouver Island for 2 weeks, and I mean we could go on and on about how much we love Vancouver Island. But we just love it there. It was incredible. We had so much fun out there. It's a place we'd always wanted to explore. We had only been to Victoria, which is the kind of the major city on the island. We'd only been there once before for a weekend. So we got to explore much more of the island. We were like trying to figure out how we could become Canadian citizens or move there. Like we legit looked up like how to move to Canada because we loved it there so much.
Harder than you think.
It's harder than you think. So I think we're going to settle with Washington as a home someday, so we can go to Canada still easily.
Visit often.
Yeah, we can visit often. But yeah, it was great. You know, we have some friends that live in Victoria, so that was fun getting to, you know, meet them for the first time in real life because they were internet friends. And then, yeah, then we started the big drive up all of British Columbia. So if you look on the map, British Columbia is pretty tall. And that's not even where we ended. We also had to drive into the Yukon. And I mean, the drive itself, like the whole drive from Texas up to Alaska was incredible. Like the whole year has just been insane. Like I keep saying this to anyone who will listen, but I'm like, I cannot comprehend how much we've done this year. It's mind blowing. Like when I think back to like Arizona and stuff, like that feels like it was years ago, but it was not even a year ago. It's just, it's crazy. It's a good and bad thing. Like, you know, at times I'm like worried I'll forget all of this stuff because we've done so much and moved fast and, you know, maybe didn't have enough time to soak it all in. But, you know, the good thing about YouTube is we can relive it all, you know, on TV. You can just watch it again. But the drive up British Columbia and the Yukon was just, I mean, incredible. I don't really know how else to describe it. We saw so many bears, so much incredible scenery. You're in these really remote areas where there's not many people around. You just,
you drive for hours and you don't see anybody.
Yeah,
it's days, right? Like it's like if you were to just cross the border and go from, we'll say Vancouver or whatever, into Alaska, like how long is that? I think it's longer than what people realize, right?
Yeah.
So I believe Texas to Vancouver is the same distance that we had Vancouver to Alaska.
That's insane. I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah, it took us 4 months to get from Texas to Vancouver. Granted, we were going very, we were taking our time, taking our sweet time, you know, partially because we didn't want to get up to Alaska when it was still snowy. So we took 4 months to get to Vancouver. And then I think once we got into Vancouver, we got to Alaska 3.5 weeks later. Partially because it's really hard for us to work in Canada. We don't have, long story short, like we don't get enough data with our phones, like international data stuff's all whack and like we can't really work. And it was so stressful and hard, especially when you're in areas where there aren't like coffee shops to work at. So we just, and we wanted to get to, we had to get to Alaska by a certain date because we had some reservations. So we had to kind of book it up. But I mean, even so, we still experienced so much on that drive up, just, you know, finding cool little roadside things to stop at, going on hikes, hardly seeing anyone. I mean, we didn't even really see many people. We didn't see anyone with a US license plate until we got to the start of the Alaska Highway, which is about halfway up British Columbia. Wow. We didn't even see many people at all, but we didn't see anyone from the States. Like, it was crazy. I mean, down by Vancouver, you will a little bit, but it wasn't until we got to the Alaska Highway starting point, you know, which is kind of where there's a couple different ways you can get to it, depending on where you're coming from, that you start to see, you know, everyone else that's doing what we're doing, which was such a neat experience for us because the whole year, you know, we didn't encounter anyone driving up to Alaska. You know, we'd meet people on the road and stuff, but they're all just, you know, in California or doing whatever.
They're doing.
And so it was really fun to meet people who were on the same kind of journey as us and hearing, you know, how they got to the starting point and just hearing their plans, you know, in Alaska or wherever they were going. And, you know, we made some friends at a hot spring in British Columbia that we ended up running into in a very, very small town in Alaska, a very small town.
Wow.
Ran into them on a rainy day, like no one's really out. We run into them and then we hung out with them again in a different part of Alaska. And we keep in touch with them and stuff. And it was just a cool, like bonding experience, I guess you could say, just to meet people who are kind of doing the same thing you're doing and, you know, hearing all their stories and stuff. So that drive up through Canada and the Yukon is one of the most just like wild, vast places. Like there's 40,000 people that live in the Yukon territory, which is not, if you look on the map, it's a good sized territory. Like it's pretty good size. There are more moose than people in the Yukon. And I was trying to put into perspective, 40,000 people. There are 20,000 people that live, we'll say, in the general area we live in, because I'm trying not to give away hints of where we live. But like my parents' neighbor, like where we live in Austin, there is 20,000 people, like in our little general area.
Wow.
So half of the Yukon population, that's just mind blowing to me. It's just so beautiful out there. We got to go through the Yukon multiple times, multiple areas, and every single part of it was stunning. And then we finally crossed into Alaska 5 months later.
That's
The
so
first thing
exciting.
we did was
Do you want us to go through Alaska too?
Yeah, well, let's definitely hit on some highlights, and there's definitely one highlight that I really want to talk to you about.
I
Which
feel like
think
I know
you
what's
what it is, but we have to talk about that. But so where do you cross in? Like, is it near Juneau at all?
No,
Or
Juneau's in like a whole other part of Alaska that Juneau, you actually have to take a boat to
you
get
have to take a
to.
boat or a chopper,
Yeah,
right?
so we didn't
Yeah.
even go to that part of Alaska, minus one very small town that's kind of in that like southeastern portion of Alaska, kind of like the tail if you're looking at it.
Okay.
We went to one very small town called Hyder on our way down from Alaska, which was one of the biggest highlights of our entire year. And it's just this tiny little town in Alaska that we can share more about in a bit. But besides that, we didn't go to that part of Alaska. It's just too hard to get around, very expensive to take all the ferries. And, we have a dog, so we can't just fly everywhere. So we skipped that part. So we entered, the closest town is called Tok. It's spelled T-O-K, but it's pronounced Tok. And it's a very small town, but that's kind of like the first town you hit, but you still have like a bit of a drive after you cross.
You're still driving a good bit.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it on a map here. Okay, so yeah, so you're almost like a quarter of the way up Alaska when you enter in from east to west. And then, okay, so tell me about your trek. So what did you kind of hit for? What was like your first big hit when you went to Alaska?
Well, our first big thing was actually a fail. Our first video was going to be driving the Denali Highway from east to west and which ends like, right outside Denali National Park. And we were just kind of.
Well, first it was very smoky.
Yeah.
A lot of wildfires were happening when we got to Alaska. And this was in like June 10th, I think, time frame. And we were like, oh no, like, like it's already happening. Like the wildfires are already happening. Is this what our whole summer is going to be? Because normally the wildfires are just a fact of life out west in the summers, especially these days. And, we just didn't expect it to be so soon. But thankfully, once that like week or two of that happened, it was clear minus rain. It rained a lot, but it wasn't smoky the rest of the summer. So it was okay. It was just like a week or two of smoke, but that was the first hurdle we had with that adventure.
Yeah. And, making the journey all the way up there and doing so much already in this year, we were just kind of exhausted. Just needed a little bit of time to collect ourselves before hitting it hard in Alaska. But we had this video we wanted to make of, driving the Denali Highway. And we had that smoke that was kind of dampening our spirits. So it was also kind of rainy days.
Yeah.
And you just couldn't see the views like what we were expecting, I guess. And we wanted to show off, it in its at least a pretty good days. Showcasing the place is important to get people to go out there, and just we want to have a good time as well, and make a good video. And so that was just kind of tough. And you
were gonna fish, but then it was like the water was so rushing, and we're like, I don't think this is gonna work. And it was just like a lot of things. Like we just didn't feel like. I don't know. I think we wanted to make our first video in Alaska super epic, We
had this pressure on us.
And it was just it wasn't a clear day. It was just hard. And you go on this drive for the views. There aren't a ton of hikes. So like we didn't have anything to do besides drive. And then like you can't really see everything. So we drove it, and it was beautiful. Like but it just didn't capture well on camera because it wasn't that clear. And we like midway through, we're like, we're gonna cut this one, which something we've done before, and it sucks. Like it always, and then we spent the rest of the day feeling bad that we cut the video. So I mean, it's not the first time that's happened. We've cut a lot of videos, that no one ever knows about, and I'm sure there will be more. I mean, we cut multiple in Alaska, but we try to listen to ourselves, and like if we're having a rough time, like not trying to push ourselves to film it, just because filming takes a lot of energy, and you don't want to be like a downer the whole video. So I mean, it was beautiful, don't get me wrong. We would love to go do that drive again, because there's a lot of places you can just camp, pull off the road and just stay in the van, and seemed amazing. It was just like not the best time of year. It was still kind of snowy and everything was kind of like brown and muddy, and there's just a lot of things working against us. So
And who writes the scripts? And are you guys like, I remember you saying how it takes a lot of time to write the scripts and everything. Like, are you guys getting better with that?
What'd you say? Sorry. What was the last-
Are you guys getting like better with like writing scripts? Is that becoming easier, or is it becoming like harder and harder because you feel like you need to kind of keep upping yourself?
I mean, I definitely feel the pressure to like make every video just as good or better than the last. I feel a lot of pressure to keep people excited about our videos and to make good videos. And yeah, it's hard. I mean, Alaska was epic. And so was all of our Canada stuff. And then we came back and we're like going through Nebraska, which we thought was incredible. It was like, we saw some really cool stuff in Nebraska. And then people are like, I miss Alaska. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Like, I want people to, appreciate Nebraska. Like, well, I mean, this is, when you think of Nebraska, this isn't what you thought.
Alaska. They tell you that I miss Alaska. I'd be like, so do I. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like, but we don't want to compare everywhere to Alaska. I mean, they're not going to win. I mean, we're about to film a recap video and we're not even including Alaska in it because we've already done a separate Alaska one. And we don't think it's fair to compare things to Alaska. So we've done our Alaska recap and now we're going to do like everything else recap because we want to give everything a more level playing field. I mean, so I mean, when people are like, go back to Alaska when we're like back in the lower 48, it's, it's added pressure to make things that are interesting, and try to find things that excite us because, we love hiking and going to like epic mountain spots and that we can't always do that. So just trying to find things that excite us in places. And, we found so many there's something cool everywhere is what we've learned. And we have a lot of fun everywhere. You just have to not be comparing everything to Alaska and then you'll have fun.
Yeah. And let's get back to Alaska in just a moment. But I remember our last conversation, the podcast one, was lifting the curtain kind of like behind the scenes of what you guys do and what you guys go through and the comments and stuff that you get about people. How is that going for you? So, people still overall pretty generous with you guys. Like, how's the whole interaction of online and just working in the online world?
Well, I have stopped reading comments on YouTube. Adam's taken over that. We've had some stuff happen this past year that I won't get into, but that made it so I couldn't do it anymore. Like, it was not good for me. I didn't like how I was reacting to people. Like, I wasn't proud of how I was reacting back to people when they were being kind of rude to us. And I just had to take a step back from it.
And so if you don't mind, I'm going to hold you. But you know what sucks about that is how I met you. I made a comment. I made a comment on YouTube about a waterfall in Idaho, and you responded within 10 to 15 minutes. And that is exactly how I met you two, because you guys were so kind to me and you gave me such great information and great tips. That really kind of like upsets me to hear that.
Well,
that sucks.
And I don't want to like harp on the negative comments because like there's so many more positive ones than negative
we
ones.
get tons.
So many more. It's just we have some friends that are also in the YouTube world, and her and I have talked a lot. We talk a lot about this, and we've kind of just said like her and I both can find negative in a lot of comments. Like if someone comments like all they comment is like, you missed this, and this. I just take it as like, you didn't like what we did in the video, like, or good video, but you should have gone here. It's like, I don't like when people say, oh, we get comments. Okay, I can't get on my rant. The comments that hurt me the most are ones that are like, I love your videos, but, and we get those a lot. I love your videos, but here's everything you're doing wrong, or here's how I think you should change your videos, or you need to change all of this. And it's people who, I mean, I think they think they're being kind. So I don't want to hate on them too hard, but it's just hard. I mean, I still read the comments every once in a while. Adam tells me a lot of the comments, but I like deleted all YouTube things off my phone.
Wow.
So I've just had to take a step back from it, but I still am on Instagram. Adam and I kind of split email duties a bit more. I'm on Facebook. So I'm still engaging with people. It's just those are like the places. There's Kona again.
Okay.
Pause. I'm gonna tell my mom.
Tell-
Can y'all please entertain her?
Hey, Ma.
She is freaking out at the door. Sorry. Unpause. Like Adam still reads me the really nice supportive comments. I'm still engaging with people on email and Instagram and Facebook. And I do sometimes pop into the comments and respond. It just kind of depends. Like he has to kind of screen them first just to make sure like any of the, ones that will be hurtful, like I won't see them essentially. We're not going to lie. We go pretty heavy on the blocking. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I would just say like, for us, it's like, this is our space and this is our life. And we're sharing, we're just sharing ourselves and, trying to be positive. And so anything that's like kind of trying to take away our happiness, like we just don't really stand for that.
I just like, face palm emoji here. Like,
Yeah.
what, you know what I mean? What? Like what?
Yeah.
You guys are just traveling, having a good time with your life and trying to produce things to help people. Like, what?
Yeah, we're just trying to, show fun stuff and be helpful and share our adventure and show that there's cool stuff everywhere you go. And it's frustrating when we get stuff like that. And it's funny because, they would bother both of us, but me, before we switched the duties for me to take over most of the comments, like I was like, I'll take it. They're not going to bother me. Like they don't bother me at all. So I'll take it on. And, now after doing it for a few months now, like some of them start to, like needle you in the side. It's like, come on. And they really stick in your head. But
yeah. And I mean, yeah.
Again, we get so many positive comments pretty much every day. So it's
yeah. I think what's hard is like a lot of people just say like, oh, just focus on the good. Like, don't worry about the haters. Like that's what people from the outside always say to us. And I get they're being like supportive and they're, trying to be encouraging, but we have like a support group with other vloggers. We have like calls and stuff. And, I think unless you're in our situation, like it's hard to understand how, getting negative feedback or people hating on you can be hurtful. Like it's not as easy as brushing it off like people, advise us to do. It's just after a while it just beats you down. But I'm proud of myself for like stepping back from the comments. Like for me, it was hard to like lose kind of like the control of managing all of that because that's kind of always been my thing. But I don't have any YouTube. I don't have the YouTube app at all. Like not even to watch other videos on my phone. I just keep it off and I try to not check it on the computer. And he tells me that the positive comments and, I'll read them sometimes, but I think it's been better for us overall. Yeah. And, I can still kind of keep that relationship with people in other ways too.
I think it comes down to, I'm sure you've heard this, is what hurt people.
Yeah.
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 It's I think deep down you probably know it's just these people that just don't have anything better to do or they're not feeling good about themselves. But I mean, I get it. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, this was amazing, but and then you're gonna focus on that one thing that's
the
wrong.
Butts that get me so much. Like it's people who do actually like our videos, but then they say but. Right. And then they say like, I wish you looked like this instead. I wish you did your music like this instead. You should edit your videos like this instead. You do too much of this or it's just like, okay, like, this is the last thing I'm gonna say. Whenever we talk about this kind of stuff, it's like all people focus on. So I want them to focus on the fun things we talked about here. But because it's all good, it's part of the gig, and it's not a fun part of the gig, but we're trying to manage it the best we can. I had something I was going to say and I just totally forgot.
Well, I think it's good to let people know like you're humans, like I feel like people probably watching YouTube, people probably see you taking all these adventures. It's kind of like athletes, right? They play a game for life and they're making a ton of money, but at the end of the day, they're still human. They still go to bed at night thinking about things that happen in their life and feelings, terrible because people said something to them or whatever. Like we won't harp on the negative for very long, but it is good also to remind people you two are human. You have a life, you have families, you have other things to deal with. You only have so much time to do what you can. I wish we all wish there was 50 hours in a day and unlimited funds to go wherever we wanted to, and you can film everything, but you can't.
Yeah, like I wish I could do everything. We just
Mhm.
can't. I mean, we have to work. Like these videos take a lot of
Yeah, I was
time.
gonna say that. I will speak for you in saying I just cannot freaking imagine how long these videos take to produce. Producing a crappy video that just has like no quality to it takes a long time.
Yeah.
Producing the videos that you have, how thoughtful you are, and the cool effects and animations and the music. My God, like that is legit a job. That is legit what people do. And you
I
guys are traveling and doing all this stuff in a freaking van in a campground. People are in offices with $1,000 Mac computers everywhere and stuff, doing that stuff with a team and all that stuff. It is YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I try to compare it to like we're trying to create essentially like a TV show,
Mm.
travel TV show, trying to create it to the best quality we can, like, Netflix light, not like maybe not good enough for Netflix, but like trying to make it something that's like a legit like travel show that's, informative and helpful and entertaining. I mean, we're not like trying to be like overly entertaining. Like if things are entertaining, we let them be, but we're not gonna like create, I don't know. We're just not good at naturally creating entertainment. Like our lives are pretty boring. Like we don't have like dramatic things happen all the time, but we're trying to do all this just the two of us. So when you watch, a show on TV, well, one, they don't air throughout the whole year. They're not once a week the whole year, which, we do 1 to 2 a week for, a whole year. And, they have a whole like director, producer, writer, editor, music person, all of that. And, that's all us. Like we wear all of those hats. And you kind of mentioned like the script thing. That's how this all started.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the one thing I was gonna say though is like the thing I've even said this to people. Like our videos are our form of art, and we're expressing ourselves in the way that feels authentic to us, and we're editing a video in the way we want to. It's our creative expression, it's our art form. And so when people like leave like suggestions of like, you should do this instead, or I wish you edited your video like this, like that's what's hard for us, I think, because it's like it's it's an art and everyone has a different style, and there's so many different styles on YouTube, and everyone's expressing themselves in their own way, and art's kind of a subjective thing, and so we know not everyone's going to like it, but at the same time, like, we're trying to fit our own mold, not like try to fit everyone else's mold.
I applaud you.
Yeah, and what's frustrating about that is like someone who says like, "Oh, I don't like this about your videos." Well, there's 5 people over here that left a comment saying they do like that. So it's like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
I get it.
It's a weird world,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, we've learned a lot.
Yeah.
We've been doing this full time now for over a year. Going back to your original question, I mean, we try to like storyboard out the videos, I guess you could call it. Like we write out specific things if it's like factual. It's like we'll like kind of like script out like factual things because we want to get that right. We've learned the art of the voiceover, where you can read things, because memorizing factual things can be so hard. And so we tried, really hard to like find ways to make filming easier for us. So if something's going to be really hard to like memorize on camera, like a factual thing, we look a lot beforehand for like historical images we can put over it, or we think like, well, what can we put over this so we can make our lives easier and just read it versus having to say it on camera. Yeah, and we like, we try to think through like, well, how do we want to start the video? How do we want to end the video? And just like the transitions between stuff. I'm very big on transitions. That's kind of like, as the person who films the majority of the content and also edits it, Adam does like the music. Like I'm the one who kind of like puts it together, like the actual video in terms of like the story of it. So I think a lot about that before we film, because I've found that like having that plan going into the day, like this is what we're filming. These are the important things we want to make sure we touch on. We love when like random spontaneous things happen. We love when that kind of stuff happens, but you can't plan for that. But if the day just goes as planned, this is kind of what to expect for our day. It helps us a lot to be able to enjoy the moment more, because instead of standing around wondering like, well, what do we film now? What do we say now? We actually like, we go into the day with a plan. We knock out kind of the plan stuff, let anything else organically happen, because we try to, you know, have as much organic stuff in there too. And then, yeah, we get to just kind of enjoy it. And I feel like that's helped a lot. I think we definitely are still cramming our days too much. We've cut back significantly how much we do each day, but we've also like really upped how much we film. Like we have so much more footage per video than we used to have. And I don't know why that happened. I think, you know, us trying to just make the videos better over time and have more like B-roll and stuff. Like we have so much footage, it's ridiculous. But I think overall it ends up, most of it gets used in some way.
Yeah, I think we used to kind of be hard on ourselves with how much planning we did, like, because we want to be as authentic as possible, but we also want to create a good video. And so I think all that planning does help create, I definitely know it helps create a better video, but you look at other content creators and they might have more of a kind of winging it kind of style. But
that's just not, it doesn't work for us.
It doesn't work for us. And
it works for some people. And I admire those who kind of can just like make an awesome video just in the moment. But we've just learned that's just not us.
Well,
so,
you do you, because what you've done has obviously got you here, which is a pretty incredible place. And like being a graphic artist and digital artist myself, I completely understand the whole artistry thing. Even with this podcast, it's like, if someone were to be like, hey, you should ask these questions, or you should do this, or you should do that, it's like, well, then you pick up the mic and create your own show. That's, I mean, sorry.
I want to say that every time.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it myself, because that's one of the reasons I got started with the podcast. I listen to podcasts. I'm like, oh, these are really interesting people. I wish they would ask these questions. Instead of me leaving a comment, you should have asked them this. It's like, I'm going to start my own podcast so I can actually do it. So,
heck
yeah. So,
it's, I mean, but to reiterate, we have so many amazing people that support us, and we're very, very thankful for them. It sucks that my brain works in a way that one negative comment just stands out more than
you're human.
Ones, but human. I'm a sensitive human. I'm a people pleaser, and that's just who I am, and I can't change that. And I'm gonna start seeing a therapist soon, so hopefully that'll help. So I'm working on it. But
I recommend therapy for anyone. I think it does people, you know, people a lot of good. And I know there's probably if someone's like, I wanted to hear about Alaska. Why did you guys stop? We'll get there.
I know. This is why we have to storyboard our videos, because we start to ramble.
Well, this is great. This is great because people get to know you behind the scenes. So we'll get to Alaska in just a moment. But I want to just say, like, you two are super genuine and just really authentic and very kind, which is why, one, this is the third time we're on, and two, why we keep in touch throughout all of these years. Like, if you two were just like, I don't know, you thought you were like the shit because you travel and this is what you do for a career, like, you probably wouldn't be on right now. We certainly probably wouldn't be talking a whole lot, but it's like, you're very genuine, very friendly people. And I can honestly say I root for you too. Like, I'm so happy when you get to accomplish things, when you get to see things, when you just anything and everything that works out well for you. I'm very happy for you because of who you are. And I know how hard you work towards that. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of more positive people out there. I'm sure a hell of a lot more people feel that way. And it's not very often I meet people that I actually root for, you know, a lot of times just like, oh, that's cool. But I actually legit root for you guys. And so to see you succeed and to have all these adventures and all this stuff, it makes me happy. Like I said, I saw the Northern Lights. I was like, hell yeah. Like, I was rooting for you guys. I was like, I told Chris, I was like, they saw the lights. Like, I get really excited for you guys because of who you are. And so
it's awesome to have people in your life that you like root for. Like we have we root for you. We have friends that, you know, do YouTube as well, that we are just like, I'm like, I want to get like number one, like our friends Jen and Elliot, who are on your podcast. I'm like, I just freaking love them. And they're just the best. And like,
awesome.
we just got some of their stickers in the mail today.
Hell yeah. Yes.
On my laptop. And I'm like, it's awesome when you have people in your life that like, you are so excited for them. It's just, I don't know how to explain.
That means a lot. Thank you.
So thank you. We're glad we're glad to have you in our lives. And thank you
Absolutely.
for inviting us to
No.
come on so many times.
I feel like this is like the end. Say goodbye, but we're not saying goodbye
We're
just
not
yet.
done.
Not done yet.
There's more.
This is
Because
intermission.
right, I know we have chapters in this one, but we are in Alaska, and obviously that could be its entire own episode. Who knows? Maybe it should be. But I want to talk about some of the highlights of Alaska, and I've had multiple episodes based on Alaska. I've had conversations with people in Alaska. People love it. They do really well. The numbers in Alaska seem to do very well. And I feel like it's a place where so many people just, it's their bucket list. It's the place that they want to see, but perhaps they're just not sure where to start because it's just ginormous. There is a place that I want to start because I'm anxious to talk about it. I don't think it was the first thing you did in Alaska, but I'm going to hit on it. Was Matanuska Glacier.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah. And like I say, when I do things to influence you and your trip, I feel beyond accomplished. Like I influenced the influencers. Like it makes me so happy. That was quite possibly one of the coolest, if not the coolest thing that I've ever done. And to hear you say that on your video blew me away. I was not expecting you both to say that because you've done a lot more than the average person. So was that true?
Yeah.
Was that the coolest thing you've ever done?
It was top 3 Alaska experiences for sure. I mean, definitely like top 10 for there's so many amazing things happened this year. I just can't really list them, but it's just too hard. But that was one of the coolest things we've ever done, literally.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was top like anything we've done. It's one
scariest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, we're not big climbing people, but it was like the climbing, and you get the adrenaline going, and it was just thrilling, exhilarating. It was a lot of fun. And
yeah, so I guess for some context, we went ice climbing on a glacier in Alaska. And yeah, Ryan, so you went on this glacier
with Micah Guides. We'll give him
Micah Guides, amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it looked like you had done some climbing. So when I went to book it, I think I asked you after I booked it, I was like, oh, which one did you do? And I just assumed you had done the ice climbing one. So I booked the ice climbing one. And then I found out that's not what you did. And you did like the one below that. That's like more like intermediate, like a good mix of chill and thrill, when ours was just thrill. And yeah, I know. I mean, it's one of those things where I said a lot of bad words. I was shaking like a leaf. I think I cried a little bit. I was so scared because when you're, using this ice axe and like they have the crampons on your shoes, like you don't fully feel like you have good grip or control. Like you're not like grabbing something with your hands. You're grabbing onto something that's supposed to keep you connected to the ice. And I slipped every single time. Like we climbed 3 walls. We ended up having basically a private tour. It wasn't meant to be that way. That just no one else booked that day. So it was just us and our 2 guides, Levi and Warren, who are awesome. And we kind of got, a really cool experience getting to do maybe a little bit more than you get to do if there were like other people on our tour. So we climbed 3 walls, and every single one I slipped and fell. I actually got like a gnarly bruise on my knee, and I ripped a pair of my pants. So like with the axe.
Wow.
But it was still like, even with all of those emotions running through me, I felt so proud of myself. It was so rewarding. And then like I'm obsessed with glaciers. I think glaciers are one of the coolest natural features out there, which is why I loved Alaska so much. Because you literally see glaciers everywhere, like just driving, glacier everywhere. And I just left that day feeling so proud, even though I was also so scared.
Same here. You mentioned I don't do heights. I rappelled for the first time in my life down a glacier, and we climbed some too. And wow, I don't know where the balls came from. I don't know. But I left there thinking that was freaking awesome. And then I remember my dad was going to Alaska 2 weeks later, and so I bought him his plane ticket for watching our dogs. And I said, you got to do this. You got to do this. This is one of the greatest things ever. And he did it, and he loved it. And then you guys did it, and you loved it. And what I loved about your one, for anybody who's listening to this, go check out the video you have. I don't know if you know the name of that specific video, but the drone footage you have, it was so cool to see this. I was like, that's where we were, but I never saw it from up there. I was like,
Yeah.
that was awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. That was such a fun video to film. And I think we've learned this past year, we enjoy filming like experience videos more so than any other video. So a video where we get to actually like experience something new, you know, something more active. So like that, I'm trying to think of other things we've done. Like it's just more, it's less like you have to spew out historical facts and more you're just like sharing like it as you're experiencing it. Like you have no idea what to expect. Like we went into that day with zero idea of how that video was going to turn out. We actually had our mic fail. So most of our footage had no audio. So that was really fun to learn. And we actually had to like re-say a couple things towards the end when we figured this out. But even so, even with all of that, and we still like were able to piece together a video that I feel like captured our experience. And I was super proud of how that video turned out. It was just really, really fun to put together, you know, all of the feelings and yeah, and like the drone shots Adam got were so cool. And
incredible.
It was just, it's one of those experiences like you can climb glaciers and places in the world, other places in the world, but I mean, I don't really know where you can in the lower 48. I mean, it's just not something you can do anywhere. So it's a very Alaska feeling experience.
But even just walking, if you do the walking tour out there, we just walked out there to get to the climbing spots. And just the walk out there and the walk back was incredible because you're walking through, like you can walk on top of the parts, but then you also can walk down in between, and it's like canyons of ice with the water running through, and it's a really neat experience.
It's beautiful. And we could talk about that all day. So, but I'm curious, how long were you in Alaska for? From when to when?
About 2.5 months. So
wow, holy crap.
Mid-June to end of August. Yeah.
What were, besides the Matanuska Glacier, some of your other, like just the highlights that you would just love to go back and like do again or see again?
Yeah, the other highlight of our life is the Kenai Fjords boat tour.
Oh,
yeah.
7.5-hour boat tour out to the couple Tidewater glaciers. Man.
And you get to watch them calving, which is when like big chunks of ice break off and it makes this loud boom that sounds like thunder. And I think it was honestly the best day of my life. It was just amazing. The mountain scenery on the boat was incredible. We saw hundreds of seals floating on icebergs, and they're all just staring at you with their cute little seal faces. It was just the cutest thing. There's glaciers everywhere, like just like the rest of Alaska, but like all the mountains have glaciers. We saw mountain goats, we saw whales, sea lions, puffins, bald eagles. It was a day. It was an awesome day. It was, I mean, just seeing the glaciers up close like that and watching them calve was just unreal.
They pulled a piece of glacier ice out of the water and made drinks with it and stuff.
Yeah, we didn't have those, but it was a fun idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool for everybody else.
We've been like I was looking through some Alaska footage recently, and yeah, I get like really sad thinking about it. I was telling Adam yesterday on our walk, I was like, I'm just so sad we're not, like, I miss it so much. And I'm just so sad by how fast it went. Like it went so fast and we just did so much. And like, I'm like, I don't want to forget it. Like it just, I don't know how to describe it. I just loved it there so much. And we would easily go up there every summer, but we also want to go to new places. So
I was going to ask you that. So obviously Alaska's tugging at your heartstrings. Would you ever consider, or would there ever be a point where you just say, forget filming and forget this, I want to go do what I'm being pulled to do? And like, you know, if you really want to go to Alaska and you just want to put the camera down, is that something you would consider doing, or just not yet?
It would be really cool to get our lives to the point where we don't feel like we have to constantly be doing something. That's kind of a struggle we have right now, is this feeling like we constantly have to be cranking out content. I mean, we did 2 videos a week most of the year, and I'm going to be honest, that was brutal. So we're definitely going to scale back a little bit next year. You know, we'll do 2 videos a week, a good amount, but not every week. We're going to try to make some, you know, a lot of our videos are starting to get real long, like 45 minutes. And those take me like they take us a lot of time to edit, like 50 hours probably just to edit the video. And yeah, we just can't keep doing that. So I think we're going to try to do more of a mix of like 15-minute videos, which we haven't really done one of those in a while, and then longer videos as it feels appropriate. It's just, it all comes down to like the story we're trying to tell and the, you know, how we want the video to be. And sometimes it means a longer video, sometimes it can be a shorter video. So, you know, it could be, what would be really cool for us is like getting to the point where we have like a big enough backlog where we can just, you know, go do stuff without filming it for a while, or incorporate our daily lives in a way that we can, you know, film and then also enjoy the place off camera too, which we honestly don't get to do it all right now. So that's kind of a goal for next year, is to get to enjoy places more off camera. It's also been our goal for like 2 years. So
I mean, but to think about like our whole business, and over the last few years, we've really focused heavily on YouTube. But we also have a website that we earn a living off of too. And so we put so much focus into YouTube, and we've seen the growth on that. And I think over the next few years, we want to try to shift some of that focus to be more balanced, and even maybe shade a little more towards the website to seize that some of that same growth over there as well. So we can still share our journey and our adventures on YouTube, just not at the same pace, but then also create lots of content on our website, which isn't as intense in the moment of creating that content. We can create a lot of that content at home. And it's also the income from that is more passive. So once we get that up, it'll, you know, kind of earn over the next few years. And
yeah, which YouTube can be that way too. I mean, we make money on videos we made years
yeah,
ago.
yeah, definitely.
But it's just YouTube, you have to be more consistent with uploading
Yeah.
to, you know, have growth and success.
Mhm.
And like, for example, we posted a video today and we hadn't posted a video in a week and a half. And that feels like an eternity in YouTube world. And then our next video is also not going to be for a week and a half. And then once we're done this year with posting, like we have nothing to film until mid-January. So we're going to have like a little over 2 weeks without a video because we're going to have nothing to share. And that kind of stuff really stresses me out.
You have a podcast. I'll give you a Zoom call if people are going to watch this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, we can just be like, listen to the podcast. No video this week, just listen.
Live
Yeah. It's just, yeah, that's hard sometimes, but at the same time, we deserve a break. I mean, we need to have breaks, and we need to normalize taking breaks.
Well, you're blurring your marriage with your passion of traveling, with work and finances. It's like, it's all one. Yeah. Everything just comes together. Whereas most people like myself, like, I don't know, I'm married now, or you have a spouse or a girlfriend, or even if you're single, like you wake up, you have your morning routine, then you go to work, and then you leave work, you leave those people behind, you finish your life that night with your family, friends, or whatever. And it's just, there's different parts of the day. Your day is all one. Your passions, what you pursue, your work, your career, your marriage, all that stuff is just nonstop, 24/7, literally.
Yeah. There's no balance or like boundaries between them. It's weird.
It's a lot. I want to ask you some questions about what you've learned about van life here in a moment. But as we wrap up kind of like Alaska, just like I can sense you loved it. You have a sincere love for Alaska, and you can see the smiles and looks on your faces when you film these videos. You just genuinely love being there. What were some things about Alaska that perhaps surprised you? That could be good or kind of like disappointing. Just for people who are looking to go to Alaska, what can they truly expect?
I'd say one thing is like, it's not as remote as you may think, only because there's only so many roads in Alaska. 80, there's like a stat, like X% of the population lives within like X miles or something like that. Like most people, you know, the areas we went to were all the areas you can drive to. So that's where everything else in Alaska you have to fly to or take a boat to. Those areas are very remote, but where we went to, I mean, it's not like we were ever out really in the middle of nowhere without any fuel or services. Yeah, maybe it's not like a big grocery store, but there's always some sort of civilization. So if I think like I think like we thought maybe we'd be like camping out in the middle of nowhere more, but in reality we camped on the side of the road a lot. Like that's just how it was. Like, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like we need internet, so like that kind of also steered a lot of our decisions. But yeah, I mean, if you're worried about going to Alaska and being in this like remote wilderness all by yourself, where you're having to fight off bears constantly, that's just not how it is. Like Anchorage is a big city. Like it's a legit city. Like it's huge, like pretty big. And they have everything you could need. And Anchorage is pretty close-ish to most places people go to in Alaska. Yeah, and then speaking of bears,
Well, that was gonna be my surprising thing.
we didn't see like any.
Yeah, we saw 2 bears in 2.5 months.
I didn't even see one of them.
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Like in Alaska alone, well, minus Hyder, which we can touch on as a highlight real quick. But in like the main part of Alaska we went to, we saw a black bear on the sidewalk when we were driving. Like it was walking on the sidewalk near a town. And then Adam saw a grizzly on our last hike in Alaska, like cross the trail in front of us, which was very scary. And I didn't see it. Kona didn't see it. It happened really quick, but we had to make a lot of noise to make sure he was gone before we went by where he was. But yeah, like I expected there to be bears everywhere. I was very scared of the bears. I'm not going to lie. Like even thinking about going back to Alaska, like it scares me to know there are bears there, especially grizzlies, especially hiking with a dog and stuff. So, but I mean, our reality was we did not see any really until we went to Hyder, Alaska, which real quickly I will share was a humongous highlight of our entire year. It's that little town I mentioned earlier that's kind of in the southeastern part of Alaska.
How do you spell that?
Hyder, it's Hyder.
Okay.
It's very, very tiny and it's disconnected from the rest of Alaska. You get to it through British Columbia, along going on the Cassiar Highway, which is how we drove down from Alaska, which is a beautiful highway. And then there's a detour you can take to Stewart, British Columbia, which then you cross the border and you're in Hyder. Like you don't even go through a border station. You do on the way back into Canada, but they're basically just like, did you buy anything? And you're, and there's like one store. So they're just, it's not very intense at that border station, but you don't even have to go through one to cross into the US, into Alaska there. But in Hyder, they have a bear viewing platform. And, a bucket list item of mine was seeing a bear catch salmon. And there's a place in Alaska. Yeah,
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah, we were standing there.
Yeah.
There's a place in Alaska called Katmai National Park, which you can only get to by plane. And it's like $1,000 for a day trip. It's really expensive. We just decided it's not for us this time. We'll go in the future, maybe when we don't have a dog to worry about and all that kind of stuff. But this bear viewing platform is $5 a person. So wait, and your chances of seeing a bear are much more unpredictable.
Yeah.
But when we went like right before they closed for the season, it was like mid-September, and they had seen a bear every day, at least one. So we felt pretty good. First afternoon, did not see any bears, but we're like, that's okay. Most of the bears they had been logging because they have like a log board. We're in the morning. So we went back the next morning after camping overlooking this epic glacier, another highlight of our whole summer, called the Salmon Glacier, which you get to from Hyder, but it's actually back over in Canada. You like take this like really rough back road to get to it. So we went back the next morning after having like the most epic backyard in our van that night at the glacier. And an hour and a half after waiting around, no bear, all of a sudden this bear comes running in the water. And his name is Runner. They call him Runner because he runs a lot in the water. And he's 4 years old and he's a brown bear, which is like basically the same species as a grizzly. But it's like brown bears are more like the coastal version of grizzlies. And yeah, we got to watch him like catch salmon for like an hour. And it was
That's
like
awesome.
the most
For $5, not 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We paid 10 because we went 2 days. But
$10.
Yeah. It was the craziest experience. But besides that, we saw like no bears. So those are kind of the two things that stood out. I mean, we had cell service a lot in Alaska. there were certain areas we didn't, but for the most part, we were able to get cell service. We just had to sacrifice like really cool camping spots most nights. But yeah, I mean,
another surprising thing, if you're going to go up there in your own vehicle or rent an RV, the boondocking isn't as magnificent as you might think it would. You might think you can, go off on a road, a dirt road, and find a nice open area to camp. There's not as much of that, at least if you don't, if you want cell service. And even just in general, there's not really a ton of that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 4x4, you might have more freedom. But I mean, we talked to a lot of people in RVs. Some of them were really, really big RVs though. Yeah. And a lot of us had to stay like closer to cities, like stay at the Cabela's. Like the Cabela's in Anchorage has probably 100 RVs every night.
Yeah, wow.
It was insane. You drive up and you think you're at an RV like shop or dealership.
Like a Camping World or whatever.
Like, it's crazy. So yeah, those are probably those are maybe more like the negative surprising things, but they didn't take away from
they're not deal breakers or anything.
I'd rather see no bears than get eaten by a bear.
Oh God, yeah. Or run to one on the trail like we had happen in Glacier, which we can talk about at some point. But the thing is, I'm jealous about what you guys got to experience with Alaska. Is we did 7 days in Alaska nonstop in a car. You did what, 2.5 months is what you said? Like you got to experience Alaska.
Yeah.
I just feel like being there is an experience. So the longer you're there, the more time you have to enjoy all these places. There's
still so much we missed. Like we mostly just hit up the highlights. I mean, we had 2 weeks gone because we got COVID. So that kind of messed up some plans. But then, we had to have days that we needed to work. But I mean, we have to do a ton, but there's still so much we missed. Just because there's so much to do there. So like, as much time as you can spend, the better. And I highly recommend anyone going to Alaska, rent an RV. It's like an RVer's paradise, because even though there may not be as many glamorous free places to camp, there are a lot of places you can camp for free. Mostly like, pull-offs on the road. Like it's much more open to that. Like they're much more open to that there than some other states are. So you can find free places to camp. So as an RVer, it's not too hard. Also great campgrounds, even if, you want to pay for something. But yeah, it's just a great place to just drive and see things and maybe go with like a more flexible schedule to see, where's the weather going to be best today? Like, and then go do that and stuff. Like we had to rearrange a lot of things because of weather. We had a very rainy summer there. It rains almost every day from July on. With a handful of sunny days, and we took advantage of those sunny days. And it didn't take away from our experience because we weren't going to let it rain on our parade, but it made it harder, especially when you're trying to like film with like expensive camera gear and you're like trying not to get it wet. That was the hardest part. But flexibility is key, and I feel like RVing kind of helps with that, especially if you're going to camp for free, because you don't have to book things. You can just kind of wing it. And the days are very long, so you can drive very late.
I think you can do it on a pretty slim budget too. I don't think the groceries were that much more expensive than down here. Same with the fuel. So I think it can be done fairly cheap, minus if you rent an RV or flying there.
Yeah, if you drive there, I mean, besides fuel costs and maybe some lodging, like it can be a pretty affordable trip.
Yeah.
There's so many free things to do in Alaska.
Yeah. I can't wait to go back. We can talk about Alaska all day. I know I've kept you here for a while. There's a few more questions talked about. Now I've noticed, and Adam, I've talked to you about videos you guys have done. You mentioned Bend, you've done Spokane, you've done Oklahoma City. What's going on? What's are you guys getting popular now? Tell me about how this is happening here. Like you're getting found out about, the secret's out.
I guess so.
Well, so we've worked with 4 tourism boards this year. We don't really do a lot of sponsored stuff. That's just not, our thing. We get so many emails every day, brands either wanting us to promote things for free or willing to pay for promotion. There's a lot of common sponsors in the YouTube world. We won't name them. I'm sure people can think of some. People have even commented I'm so glad you don't promote X. I mean, we get those emails too. It's just for us, we only want to promote things that feel very authentic, and then they flow well with the video. Like we don't want to be like, we're going to pause this video to talk to you about socks. I don't know. I mean, maybe we would, who knows? Maybe if they're travel related, but you know, that was the only example I could
I
think
mean,
of.
if they really were game changing, then and we used them or could see ourselves
Yeah, like
using them,
hiking
then
gear.
we would say might do
Socks
something.
was a bad example.
Yeah.
So here's
I
a
don't know.
question. Here's a random. Who is your dream sponsor? If someone were to reach out to you, who is it?
I mean, if REI came calling, I would not turn them down.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd say-
I'm going to post this. I'm going to post this on Instagram and I'm going to tag REI.
I mean, we
Heck, if they would like send us on trips or something, we don't even need gear. Like paper,
you don't have
like,
to pay us,
something-
just give us some
Yeah,
gear.
gear. Yeah, that too.
We're actually trying to currently we're in the process of making a ton of van upgrades, which are very expensive, which we'll be sharing about more in a few months from now. Maybe we'll tease some of it as we go, but we're making some very big van upgrades in terms of our quality of life in the van. But we also want to make some backpacking gear upgrades, and that stuff's so expensive. We're trying to basically get a more minimalist, just less bulky stuff, because we're trying to really eliminate how much stuff we have in the van or how much space it takes up. And yeah, that stuff's expensive. So REI, if you want to help
If you're out there,
help us out. But I
I love
mean,
REI. I love them. It's a great
yeah,
store.
I mean, we love REI. You know, we don't buy a ton of things, but we all typically, if there's an REI, it's a good place for us to go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But we just personally, there's nothing wrong with promoting a variety of things. We're not trying to say you shouldn't do that. It's just for us personally, we just don't feel comfortable with it. It just makes us feel awkward, and unless we really, really use something and really love it, we don't want to promote it. And that's just something we've said since day one and we've really stuck to. So for us, the best partnerships we can have are these tourism boards, because
they're kind
basically
of the dream. Yeah.
they're really the dream, because we're not encouraging people to go buy things. We're encouraging people to have experiences, which is what we're about. And we're basically getting paid by tourism boards to do what we already do, but on a even better scale, at least from our perspective. For example, our video today, well, when we're recording this today, just came out with Visit Oklahoma City. And we had such an incredible time there. We had so much fun. They helped us do so many things that maybe we wouldn't have done on our own, because, maybe financially, we just couldn't afford to do all these things on our own. We went to so many incredible restaurants. We maybe wouldn't have eaten out as much. And then they also connected us with so many amazing business owners. Almost every place we went to, we got to meet with someone personally and hear their story, and they got to give us insight. And it was just, and not all of that made the video. We showed one owner on camera, but the rest of them were kind of just off camera experiences for us, but it just made our experience even better. And we even got to meet with their team for breakfast one of our mornings there and just talk to them. And it just got us extra excited about it. And we even had a call with one of the owners we met today about him potentially working with us on some merch. So it was just a cool experience getting to
It's awesome.
Yeah.
meet people and stuff. But from a viewer perspective, it just enables us to be able to do more than we can do on our own.
So do they take you to these restaurants, or hey, we'll take care of this for you? How's that work?
Well, it varies by partnership. Typically, we just do what we normally do, and we're getting paid by the tourism board, and they also give us money for food and activities.
Okay.
It really varies, but typically we just show up and no one even knows who we are or why we're there. They might ask what's the camera for, but it's no different than any time we're filming and people wonder what you're doing. With Visit Oklahoma City though, they basically organized a lot of stuff for us. So they, restaurants knew we were coming. We met with the owners of them. We sat down with them. Some of them knew, since they knew we were coming, the bill was basically just covered. So it was a different experience than normal. It really varies though. What we've learned is every single one works differently. Some of them just say, okay, go plan your itinerary, have fun. And others are oh, let's work together on this, or we're going to make the itinerary and you'll give us feedback. So it's just kind of it just depends. But I mean, the first two we had this year, Redding and Bend, we reached out to them because we just wanted to go there and we thought it would be a really cool place to highlight on the channel. And so we got to work with them because we reached out, which, we're gonna be honest, is not our favorite way to do it. It's really hard to sell yourself, at least for us. But Spokane and Visit OKC reached out to us. And so we went there specifically, we kind of changed our route a bit home, because they invited us to come visit, and we were genuinely like wanting to go visit.
I was
another
gonna,
thing.
I was gonna ask you
Genuinely
that.
wanting to go.
Were these places on your way home, or you gonna say, "Hey, I'll be there in November"? What would they say? What would you say if they're like, "Hey, well, we wanted you here next week"? Would you get in a plane and fly there? How'd that work?
We've had opportunities that we've had to turn down because the timing just wasn't right. And like we just aren't going to reroute our whole trip just to go to a partnership. That's kind of another thing for us. It kind of comes back to like what feels right to us. Yeah, we maybe would have loved, like we had a potential opportunity in Florida and it looked beautiful, but the timing was never right. Both times they reached out, the timing just wasn't right. And like, we didn't want to derail our entire plans and what we wanted to do, just to go seek an opportunity. So for us, like we're very focused on like things that are a really good fit for us. So, Reading and Bend, we kind of knew we'd be going that way. Spokane, we knew we'd be coming back down through Washington, like from Canada. So that one was like a no-brainer. We had been there before. We already knew we really liked it there. So we were like, yeah, like we've always wanted to do more there. That sounds perfect. Oklahoma City, though, they reached out like before we even left for Alaska, I want to say, like a long time ago, but we already knew we were going to Alaska and we knew we were going a different way, or maybe we were already on our way, but we weren't anywhere near there. And so we basically just said, we definitely would, be interested in like talking more and would like to visit. But, right now we're on this journey up to Alaska, and they reached out again, I think. And then, or maybe I reached out, because we were thinking about our route home, and we're like, well, where should we go? And originally we were just going to go through Washington and Oregon and revisit places we had been to. But then, we decided, let's maybe try some new states. So we decided to do Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma. And a lot of that was because we were interested in working with OKC, and we thought, let's kind of just change our route and kind of see some new stuff that we maybe wouldn't have done without a little bit of a push.
Awesome.
So
How cool does that has to make you feel so special when a city reaches out to you? And these aren't little honky donk towns either. Like Spokane and OKC is finding you to represent and film their city. How freaking cool is that? That's got to make you feel really special.
Yeah.
It's such an honor. Like it's such a cool feeling for us to feel like they trust us to show off their city for them. It's just really cool. I mean, we've seen the power of like basically like what content creators, like how they can like influence people to travel. And so for us to be kind of chosen as people to kind of share these places it's just amazing. Like we love it so much, and we definitely want to do more. It's always just really tricky with timing and stuff. So we'll see, what the future holds with that. But it's really neat to get those opportunities. It makes us proud.
Just absolutely awesome. I love how, like I said, right about an hour ago, how you two are just authentic and genuine, and you're turning down opportunities that just don't make sense for who you are, the brand you are, what you've created. Like I said, I don't know how people just don't root for you. Like you're literally turning down money. You're like, nope, not what I want to represent.
Because I mean, being self-employed is tough. Like foregoing a reliable salary is tough. Like every month we make a different amount of money, and we're very thankful that this year has has exceeded what we could have hoped for, and I hope that continues. But at the same time, like we talk about this with my dad a lot, like the amount of work and time we put into things versus how much money we make does not add up. Like on paper we might be making a decent amount of money, but considering how hard we have to work for that, it definitely does not add up. So yeah, like turning down opportunities is tough, but at the same time, like we want just to remain true to who we are. We just don't want to like lose ourselves in this whole YouTube world where it becomes so easy to like do things just to go viral or just to get views. Like that's just not how we roll. I mean, we've been doing this for four years now, which is really crazy. And I mean, minus, I think I'm pretty confident the production quality's gone up a bit.
It was like, good. It was good. Now it's great. It's awesome.
Those first videos are a little cringy to watch. Like our camera presence isn't the same as now. It's not bad. It's just different. But besides that, like, maybe just how we structure the videos is a little bit different. I think we've tried to stay we kind of remain the same. Like we've grown, but I don't think we've changed necessarily.
I mean, we have some big goals for the future, you know, personal things, and like we want our own property one day and stuff like that. And we'd get there a lot faster if we took some of these opportunities, but we don't think it's worth it to, I guess, compromise our values, I guess, or what we want.
Yeah. As we turn here now, it's just to the future of A+K, like, do you see yourself hanging up the spikes, if you will, on the van life? Or is it like, you know, hey, no, things are going well. You're loving this, and for the foreseeable future, you're going to keep doing this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, for the foreseeable future, the next handful of years, we'll definitely be doing something in the van. We don't ever want to get rid of the van. We want to run the wheels off of it. But I mean, you know, after a few years, it's going to start tapering off a little bit, but we're always going to be traveling. And again, we want to get some kind of property and build a little cabin on it. And so have more of our own home base to come back to in an area that we really love and has tons to do around it.
But that's like years
balance.
away.
It's still a ways
That's
away.
a very long time
Yeah.
away. But I mean, like we've been traveling exclusively in the van for over 3 years now, you know, in the US or Canada. So a big goal of ours, and this was our goal kind of from the get-go, but then COVID happened, was to do a mix of international and van life. So that's kind of what we're shifting to next year. So, you know, right now it's November, basically December, and we're here in Austin, like just sitting still until mid-January. And then from mid-January until like mid-April, all of our trips are going to be plane based. And then we won't even be back in the van until end of April. And then we'll be in the van like the rest of the year, or at least through like this time next year. But we're doing a mix of like flying trips, both international as well as a US based trip that we're flying to. But we're trying to just like kind of switch it up and see some new stuff, because we do love traveling in the US. We love having our home on wheels with us, and we definitely are staying with the van. I mean, we're investing a good amount of money to upgrade some of the stuff in it right now. So we're definitely not stopping with van life. We're just trying to make it more comfortable for us so we can, you know, be a little less stressed on the road. But we also want to experience other cultures and other people, and be in a place where like no one speaks our language and we just have to like figure it out. Like I think we've learned kind of like what I said earlier about like filming experiences really excites us. So anything that's like, you know, we love eating food, as people know, and, you know, it's fun to share that with people. But at the same time, like what really excites us is just kind of jumping into the unknown and just getting out of our comfort zone. And we just enjoy filming those videos the most. So going international, even if we're doing the most mundane things like eating food, it'll all feel so exciting and new. We're super stoked about that. And we're trying to, we're trying a new thing where we aren't, like, at least for like our first trips of the year, like it's going to be a mix of working and traveling. So days where we work, days where we go do things, and we're trying to have more balance in our life. So that's a big focus. So, you know, maybe doing less videos in a place, or maybe not making them as jam-packed, but getting to kind of experience it off camera too, like we said.
Is one of those upgrades to your van perhaps a satellite dish so Adam can watch his sports games?
Well, we do hope to get satellite internet, like Starlink. That's one upgrade we plan to make.
Oh, excellent.
But that's one of the cheaper ones.
Oh boy.
We're doing a lot of like electrical upgrades, like power based.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm having what's it? The wandering bus dude coming back on. He's coming back on next week. Yeah, he just did a bunch of upgrades to his bus. I'm going to talk about that.
Cool.
I won't let you. I'll let you announce those secrets to what you're doing to your van.
Keep things under wraps a little. We got to keep people like on their toes. You know, give them a reason to stick around.
I won't push it. But as we wrap this up, I remember my first episode with you guys. I did rapid fire questions with you guys, and as you talking, I was remembering some of them, and I want to ask you some of them again. And some new ones.
Okay.
And not really recalling some of your answers, but I want to see how things have changed over the last couple of years. And so as we get started here, I remember you did not know what Wegmans was 2.5 years ago.
We sent you a photo when we went.
Yes, in Virginia.
Yeah.
So 2.5 years later, what is the best grocery store chain in the US that you've been to?
HEB.
Yeah.
That's what you
Sorry.
said before, right?
Sorry.
You still
Texans
is, huh?
just-
Yeah.
Texans just love HEB. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wegmans was great. We went to a really good Wegmans too.
Hmm.
But I would say it's the closest thing we have found comparable to HEB. And not all HEBs are created equal either. Not all of them are that good. It's just more of like HEB is just in your heart, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we
Okay.
were in Houston for Thanksgiving and getting some Thanksgiving food, and we were looking at 2 items, one to get. One was like the name brand, one was the store brand, and they have really good store brand stuff. And we were like, let's just get the store brand one. It's gonna be
Yeah,
better
the HEB
anyways.
stuff just so good. They just
Yeah,
make
yeah.
everything good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I know people love Publix too. Do you
Yeah.
Publix is
I've been
solid.
yeah,
been
you
there
like,
too. It's
Mhm.
good.
like Publix. I know that's the
I
battle.
think Wegmans wins, but I don't know.
Over Publix, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the battle on the East Coast. Is like Wegmans is like creeping down from the Northeast. You got Publix coming up from Florida, and they're like battling it out here in North Carolina. And everyone's like, I'm a Publix. I like Wegmans. And no.
Okay, well, so when we visit you next year, this upcoming year,
Yes, yes.
well, teaser, people know where Ryan lives. That might give you a little idea of where we're headed in the US. But when we visit you next year, we'll go on a little Wegmans outing.
Let's
You can
do
take
it.
your favorite Wegmans in all of Raleigh.
Let's do it. There's like 3 or 4 of them now, which is crazy because they all just popped up. I grew up with Wegmans in upstate New York. That's where it's from, Rochester, New York. That's where it started. And it's all over the Northeast, and now it's working its way down here. It's one of those stores when it opens, there is a line all the way around the block for people to be at the opening. It's like Black Friday. It's crazy. It's good stuff, though. I really do appreciate Wegmans. All right, a few more questions for you. This is, well, I'm gonna hold this one off. Favorite national park still to this day?
You're supposed to be rapping.
I think my answer was Olympic, I think, and it's still really high for me, but I think Kenai Fjords is gonna take it.
I was gonna say Kenai Fjords, but at the same time, I still love glaciers so much. But they
Yeah.
both have glaciers, so
Yeah.
Kenai Fjords is just fresh in my brain. I think I'm
Mhm.
gonna say Kenai Fjords. I sound so
Okay.
disappointed. in myself.
Recency bias, but hey, Kenai
Yeah.
Fjords is pretty
Or
freaking
Glacier.
incredible.
Glacier's still in there.
You know what's funny is I asked that question to people, and Glacier's always mentioned. It
Yeah.
is really always
Yeah.
mentioned. Wow,
That's like, in my opinion, the Glacier National Park area is the best scenery in the lower 48, probably. Or up there.
Jewel of the continent, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so you might get 2 different answers for this one. You mentioned earlier this podcast you love that town on the coast in California. If you can just transport somewhere tomorrow, what's like a town you would visit for 24 hours?
Mm.
Oh, that's tough.
It's supposed to be rapid fire, but I'm having to think about
Yeah.
these ones.
I always
the
love to
US?
know. I love to know the places that people go that kind of captures them a little bit.
This might be a lame answer, but I kind of feel like I'd pick Seattle.
Okay.
Just because it's like our old home and I just love it there, and just being there makes me happy. And we've been in the van a couple of times, and it's just not the same as like being there not in the van. Like the van just makes cities harder. And yeah, I think I was there over the summer for a layover, and I went out and explored a little bit, but I was by myself, and so like I want to go with him again and like revisit our favorite
Yeah.
spots.
I think I'm gonna go with it's right next to San Luis Obispo. It's Pismo Beach, small little town right on the ocean there. Beautiful coastline. There's a cool little pier that goes out into the water, so I can practice my horrible surfing. There's tons of golf nearby, tons of affordable golf nearby. Nice little town, good food, beautiful sunsets. That's my pick. 24 hours.
Hard.
wake up, go surf, and then I'll eat some food, and then in the afternoon I'll play 9 holes as the sun's setting, and maybe do a hike in between that, and
Wow.
active day.
I'm just gonna go to Seattle. That's all I'm gonna go to.
Both great choices. It's one of those, you want to go to a place where you just like kind of stop and pause time for a while and just soak it all in. These
Yeah.
places are different for everybody. I love, especially
you
for
pick?
someone. Where would I pick?
Yeah.
I
It's
wasn't
hard.
expecting. I have never been asked the questions on this.
There we
We're
go.
gonna turn the tables.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. I don't necessarily know this is my final answer, but Sedona is now extra special.
Yeah, your wedding.
Yeah, there you
For
go.
me.
Your wedding city.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's now extra special for me. I'm trying to think of like a map of the US.
I know that's what I was trying.
Yeah.
I always look at our map in the van, but I'm not in the van. The map's behind me, but it's like the whole world.
I would love to go, and I got to get. We went back to Idaho, so knock that one off. But
Yeah.
I would love to go back to White Sands on a cool, calm day with a beautiful sunset. If you can,
Yeah.
if you can say, "Hey, Ryan, December 15th is going to be the greatest day at White Sands," I would probably hop on a plane and go figure out how to get
Nice.
there. That place was
New
just
Mexico is super underrated. We've had a great
Awesome.
time every time we've been.
yeah,
all
it
over
was
the state.
awesome. It's silence. When you're just in the middle of the sand dunes and there's nobody there, it's weird to hear silence. You just don't ever hear nothing. And it was just like 360 panorama views, just
Yeah.
incredible.
Mhm.
But yeah, I really wanted to know that. Okay, so what have you learned most about van life? Because I feel you guys are pros now, you're veterans. The first time we had a conversation, you were like a year into the van or so. I feel like you guys have probably sharpened up some skills. What's like something you've learned the most about van life?
Everything is harder. I mean, the van is incredible. I love it. I love having all my stuff with me at all times. Like I love our van. I'm so emotionally attached to our van. I could never think about selling it. Like I just love it. But beyond like the amazing places it can take you and all the amazing experiences we have, which I'm so thankful for, the lifestyle itself is not as glamorous as it may seem. I mean, you're still doing chores just like anyone else. You're still working like anyone else, unless you're just on a vacation in your van. But like everything's harder. You have to conserve water. Power has been a huge struggle for us, which is why we're in the process of making some upgrades. If you're in a heat wave, it can get so uncomfortable in there, which is why we're also making a specific upgrade very soon. Like there have just been times we're so it's so uncomfortable. Like, we're having to drive around aimlessly because our batteries are low and we need to work or we can't work and we have to go like into a coffee shop or something, which is fine. I mean, that's fun, but sometimes it's not always easy. Like you have to go to I think one thing that I hadn't thought about, my mom pointed it out when we took them on an RV trip in Idaho and Wyoming this fall, was we go to a different grocery store almost every single grocery store trip. Like, whereas like at your home grocery store, where everything's located, we're going into different stores and sometimes they have different layouts. There are different chains of stores. Like everything's different. They don't have the item you want. Like, they have to go to another store to find that item. And my mom was like, this is hard. She's like, I don't know where anything is in this store. And it's like, yeah, I had never really thought about it, mostly because he does most of the grocery shopping, but it is hard. It's just like every little task, like internet, water, power, showering, everything is just harder and takes longer. And yeah, like I've probably said this before on the podcast, but like you can't just like have your laundry going while you're cooking. I mean, you kind of can, but it's a little bit different of a situation. Like I can't go shower, have my laundry going. He can be cooking and or we're working. Like we can't multitask as much. It's just harder.
I think I've learned that you don't need as many, physical things as you do if you lived in a house apartment, things like that. So you come to appreciate a lot of the the few things that you do have. So you want to have high quality things that last a while, and appreciate those things and take care of them. So I think we're not minimalists by any means, but we do definitely have a lot less physical things than the average person. And then the same things with maybe this is because we work so much, but we don't watch as much TV and things like that. Yeah, a lot of that stuff is a distraction. So just appreciating the little things you have and knowing that you don't have to have so many things. And there's so many amazing places to see and things to do all over the country. And you just appreciate all that.
That probably just inspired some people listening to that.
Yeah.
Just being present and appreciating what's around you. We are a society of distraction these days, and I'm number one, public enemy number one with that, as well as not putting on my Christmas lights.
I mean, we're still bad. We scroll on Instagram too. We're trying to cut that out, but
yeah, we have our other
our
ways.
vices, yeah.
You watch your freaking Astros win the World Series, you know. God,
It's a good distraction.
do you guys still take showers at like Planet Fitness and stuff? I remember that's what you said. You
That's
did.
another thing, is you take less showers.
Yeah, that's another thing about van life. Yeah.
Unless you just want to keep filling up your water tank all the time.
Yeah, we actually are having to get rid of part of our water storage to make more space in the van. So we'll see how that goes. But whenever we're near Planet Fitness, we'll always do that over the van. The van's more for when we're not near Planet Fitness. So for the most part, most of next year until we go a little further away in the van, we'll probably be near Planet Fitness. So, and that's pretty easy. And we like to work out. We're getting back into that. We kind of stopped over the summer just because we were hiking a lot, and also we just couldn't get ourselves to do it. So we're trying to get back into that. So it's a good excuse to go work out and then go shower, or you can just go shower. And I always feel really awkward doing that because they're like, have a great workout. And you're like, I'm not.
Thank you.
I know what.
That's awesome. And I remember our first conversation, we talked about travel cards. You guys are going international. Do you still have a travel card that you use and or recommend?
Oh, credit card?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we have 2 travel cards we use. We use one for like business expenses. I don't know why I put that in quotes.
Which is like everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like not a business credit card per se, but we use it to keep our business and personal separate. So we have the Chase, what is it? The Chase Reserve, Sapphire Reserve. I forgot what it was called. So we use that one more for like business stuff. And we love that card because you get more for your points than like any other card we found.
Okay.
So I think you get 25% more. So for example, if a flight is $1,000, that would normally be 100,000 points. It would be around 75,000 points with Chase. So that's a really, really nice perk. But we also use the Capital One Venture X card, which came out, I think, around a year ago. Was that your little X?
Yeah, everyone says that. But keep going.
Yeah, no, that card's awesome because you get double points on everything. So we can rack up points a lot more, but I do get sad when it's time to redeem them and my points don't go 25% more. So when we booked like a big international trip recently, and I was like travel hacking like crazy, trying to find the best way to get our flights for as little points as possible, because it was expensive flights. And so I was like trying to hack between the 2 credit cards, trying to figure out the best way. But I like having both of them. It's nice. And those are kind of the only 2 we really have. We used to have like an Amex Platinum, but these cards are not cheap. They are expensive to have every year. And, we weren't traveling internationally, so we kind of weren't like reaping a lot of the benefits anymore. But those 2 are here to stay.
Yeah, I have the Chase Preferred, which is the tier below the Reserve. And then we just got the Venture X about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
That's our first marriage card. We both have the same card that goes to the same account. And yeah, I mean, it's really, I hear the greatest things about the Venture X. Everyone keeps saying that. Do you feel those points go a long way for you? Because I feel like we just jumped over triple digits, and I'm just like, oh, we can stay at this hotel and we're done with everything in 2 nights. Our points are completely gone.
Yeah, it's hard. Like everything's so expensive. Like we just booked, we have accumulated a lot of points through COVID. Like we had like 450 400,000 points, like just from
Okay, well, a
sitting
different
for
level.
years.
Yeah.
So that was nice. And part of that was like, I mean, I've booked flights too with our points. So I have used some of them for like domestic stuff to see family and whatnot. But,
Mm.
we had a big amount of points. And so, like, for example, we had like 250 or 300, I think 300,000 on our Capital One Venture X. And I'm trying to book these flights. And the flights, Austin's not the best airport to fly international from. Like all the flights I was looking at are like well over $1,000. And like we easily could have used all of our points on just one trip, like 300,000 points for one trip.
Yeah.
And so that's why I kind of did some hacking to like find cheaper legs of flights, and I'm like hacking my way through life. But yeah, it's hard. Like they really go fast. Like we've booked hotels through credit cards, like when it's been too hot in the van and we had to get a hotel, and it's like, you're like, oh, really? Is that much?
Yeah, it's that much because
50,000 for like 2 nights or something. Like it took me
We're
so long
looking-
to get those 50,000 points.
exactly. We're looking to go to Banff next fall, and we want to stay at the Banff Springs, which is the place where we were originally going to have our wedding before
Oh,
COVID started
nice.
going nuts. And so we're like, yeah, we're gonna get there anyways. And 2 nights would eliminate our entire account of points.
Yeah.
It's like that's so hard for me to do because I just accumulated all these like 2 nights gone.
Yeah, like I don't even know how we got so many points, because we definitely have not spent that much money. I think just over time, like you get extra points for certain things, and then you get like little bonuses or whatever, and you get the sign-on bonus, which can be really high. And but still, it takes a long time to get all of that. And then you're like, cool, and it's all gone.
It's cool. It's cool to get the perspective and just thoughts of travelers like you, what you guys use. The Venture X, like I said, is always brought up. And final question, we'll keep it PG, but as somebody, as somebody who just got married, and you two have been married now for quite longer than I have, and you guys live together, very, very close together. What have you learned about your partner that you didn't really know over these years? And what advice would you give me for marriage? I know it's kind of serious.
R-rated, so I cannot share. No,
I know it's kind of serious, but I'm
kidding.
thinking how you two literally are each other's lives. You're with each other all the time, and that's got to be somewhat of a strain on marriage sometimes, but it also probably leads you to incredible highlights that most people don't have. So it's just a roundabout way of me asking you about how you kind of make it work. What are some things you've learned about living together and working together and being so close together?
Yeah, I mean, I working together has been an adjustment. I'm not gonna lie. Like both of us working fully on this, like we have different personalities and work styles, so that can be interesting. I mean, but I think for us, like always remembering like we're on the same team, we're like on the same team of life and love and work and fun. Like we're just like, I don't know, it's just us. It's like us against the world. Like, I don't know how else, I don't really know what else to say about that or how to explain it better, but like,
well, it's definitely a big help, like being together so much, basically 24/7. It's very helpful that we like doing the same things and enjoy the same stuff, because not every couple is like that. I mean, it's great to have your own hobbies and everything, but we have so many hobbies that we enjoy. Not only like we enjoy individually, but we enjoy doing them together. So that's a big help.
Yeah, I mean, like we're truly best friends, and I know like everyone says like my partner is my best friend, but like we are truly like the best of friends. Like there's no one I'd rather hang out with than Adam, and we have so much fun together. And I think that's the most important thing. It's like having fun together, like finding things that you can enjoy together. If you have different interests, finding things that you can do together that are fun, because there's so many things in life that can be stressful and a lot of work. And, those things will occur in life and in marriage. You have to work through them. Like if you have a stressful day or you're really busy at work, but just making sure you like make time for each other and have fun. And we just genuinely enjoy each other's time. And like when you're with each other 24/7, like we're not we're traveling. Like we don't have a community that follows us. Like all of our friends are here in Austin or in other parts of the US. And, you know, we can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with my friend. Like we have each other, you know, and it's like kind of like I said, like us against the world. Like we have to conquer every single challenge head on together, every single hurdle, every single fun moment, like together. And, you know, I'm not saying we're like perfect at it. I mean, we have our moments, and like sometimes we let stress just like put us in a mood. And when you're with each other all the time, it's hard to escape the stressful moods. I will say I get stressed a lot, but yeah, I mean, just being really communicative with each other. Like we're not like the ones like we're not one of the couples that like struggles to share how they feel. So, you know, I think just
Biggest piece of advice though, if I were to give advice to
I
someone
know what you're gonna say. It's a good one though.
that I've heard and I've learned is don't let the other person get hangry.
Oh, I've learned that.
Yeah, just whatever you do, don't let the other person get hangry. So make sure there's
Snacks.
someone gets fed. Yeah.
Which we suck at this.
Which
We're
we're
so
bad. So we
bad.
run into trouble. Yeah. And
Sometimes it's like, okay, we're starting to get snippy with each other. We haven't
Yeah.
eaten in like 8 hours. I think it's time that we get something to eat because
yeah.
we're not our best selves.
It's
at
real.
some point.
I mean,
It's a
I'm
real
learning
thing.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've encountered that side.
Yeah. It's nothing against the other person. It's just a reality.
Yeah. No, and food is like her love language is food.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
mean,
what she's cooking, what she's eating, what she has in the house. It's very much her love language. So if that goes a little sideways, yeah. You
just give
guys
her a or something. I don't.
so do you guys like slam a car door when you get angry? Is that all you get?
No.
It's the one door you
We're
got to
like-
slam.
I am very thankful though. Like we don't like fight really. Like we might like have moments of annoyance.
That's
I do feel like
incredible.
working together has caused more tension at times. Like
Yeah.
yesterday, I wasn't thrilled about. I was just stressed. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like yesterday wasn't our best day.
I mean, we have a lot of stress that we put on ourselves, and sometimes we're just not on the same page with tackling a task, and it can be some wasted time or run into an issue of some sort. So,
but overall we're very much like on the same page of life.
Yeah,
and I think that's
definitely
important.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for this one right here.
That's awesome. And I know we talked a lot about your trips and places you've gone and some highlights and stuff like that. But I think as a follower of you guys and people listen to this that follow you, they want to know that stuff. Like, because how can you not be envious of that? You know, like you work with your wife, your best friend, and you guys have such a great relationship. What's like, people want to know what the secret sauce is, you know, because people see their spouse for a couple hours a day and they argue and they fight and they bicker, let alone somebody who's in a van with them within close quarters all day, every day.
Yeah.
You know, you guys clearly are doing something right. So really, really cool to get some behind the scenes thoughts on that situation. And I definitely appreciate that. And being newly married, it's funny. You know, I remember thinking how the first time I interviewed you guys 2.5 years ago, you asked me, "Are you single? And how are you single? Why are you single?" I remember you asked me that. And just a couple months later, I met Kristen, and now here we are 2.5 years later. Yeah, crazy. I just can't believe it's been 2.5 years.
I know.
We're so happy for you.
Yeah,
we really wanted to be at your wedding. We were very sad to miss that. It would have been the first time we ever met you in real life.
I know.
I was gonna say we're excited to meet Kristen, but we're like excited to meet.
Yeah, we haven't met you either.
Well, it's funny. I'll relay this message. Is that I remember the day after I proposed to her, we took the dogs for a walk. It's probably a day or two. And we were talking about the wedding, and you know, let's have it somewhere. We'll have it be a good time. We'll do something destination represents who we are. And we're thinking about inviting people. And I looked at her. I said, "I think I would like to invite Adam and Kathryn." She looked at me. She goes, "I was going to say the same thing."
Oh, I'm so honored. She's only met us once on FaceTime.
Yeah, but she knows how we have like a connection. You know, like you guys have helped me. You've inspired me. You've been there for me. And we follow you. We love you too. You guys do awesome stuff. I know watches your videos. She likes your posts and comments and stuff. And we were talking the other day how we did an Instagram live. Don't forget, that was kind of like a little side episode there. We did an Instagram live, and she logged in and was listening to how you went to Boone, North Carolina, and you're talking about the Wendy's or something there. And she was commenting from her old house.
I forgot. We were on our way to sleep at the Cracker Barrel. Probably.
It was a Wendy's or Burger King. It was like some two-story.
Yeah, no,
thing.
the Wendy's had a crazy long line. I was like, what is it about this Wendy's?
Wasn't it 2 stories or something?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess they have Frosties there. I don't know. I mean, they're good, but I don't know.
Well, I tell you what, I know it's been a long time here. It's been 2.5 hours now, but it's flown by for me. I love talking to you guys. I'll talk to you guys anytime. And it's really cool to get behind the scenes of you two and your life. You live such an awesome life, and you show us so much as it is. But it's really cool to dive just a little deeper to hear more about you both and how you make the magic work behind the scenes and how much work you put in. I remember saying that a year and a half ago when we had our other conversation. It was like, it's amazing. It's inspiring. I wish people sometimes would look a little deeper than just the post and the videos. It doesn't take 10 minutes to do that. It's all the work that goes beyond that. And trust me, I do that too. I work in Adobe. I do the Creative Cloud. That takes freaking forever. And especially for it to be really good, really quality. And I'm glad you're getting noticed for it. I'm glad these cities are contacting you. Now we got to get REI. Well, this little guy over here, Ryan, this podcast host, is going to try my best to get REI.
All right.
Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah.
But episode 100 in the books. In the books. So I'm signing, I'm signing you guys up for 200. All right. So
All right.
2.5 years. We're coming back.
We're pumped and grateful to be here and to know you and
thank you.
Be a part of your life. And
we can't wait to hang out with you
Can't wait.
soon.
Yes, just let us know, and we'll have to do an episode on Iceland. And did I tell you we're going to Iceland for part 1 and part 2? We're doing Italy. I told you
I'm
that
so
before.
pumped. We really want to go to Iceland,
yeah.
and Italy is amazing. One of our favorite places ever.
Well, we'll have to have a conversation. Me, you, and Kristen. Doesn't have to be recorded. We'll have to have a conversation about Italy. We'll talk about it. We're looking to book tickets, but tickets are crazy right now to Italy. Iceland's in the books. We're staying a night at the Blue Lagoon. We cannot wait. And we are actually going glacier cave, like spelunking, if you will, inside the glaciers with someone who I had, Ryan, who I had the straw hat backpacker back on last February. He's a professional photographer that takes people out in glaciers. So we're going to go in the glacier caves and get professional photos. So
cool.
Thanks.
Oh, it's going to be so cool.
woo, and then I'll be influencing your trip to Iceland. How's that?
Yes.
Well, awesome. Once again, episode 100 in the books. No one better. Adam and Kathryn, Adventures A+K. Real quick, how do people find you?
adventuresofa+k.com, Adventures of A+K on Instagram.
You have to spell out the word plus.
Got to spell out the plus, unfortunately.
Adventures of A+K on YouTube.
Yeah, Facebook.
I'm linking everything. Everything is linked. Everything is getting linked in the show notes. But you two rock. You're awesome. Like I said, I'm rooting for you. So many people are rooting for you. Keep up the awesome work. Have a great holidays. Take a breath. This 2023 is going to be magical. We got some international stuff coming. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Guys. Hell yeah. All right. We'll talk soon, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.